guys. They're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. So you can actually correct it at this point. But saying this is a shirt, this is a shirt. This guy. And what's not a shirt, whatever. So you'll see that it'll say shirt live or YouTube live, it's a shirt, YouTube shirt. Whether it's a shirt or not, it doesn't matter, it just changes the icon for the most part. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God.
You might have activated, it actually opened up a YouTube chat pop-up feature. So you can see that it's a YouTube chat pop-up. Each one of the sources now, you can close these pop-ups once you just confirm the chat is there. You can also use these little eye icons to hide them automatically. So you hide them. In fact, when you close the chat pop-up, it actually becomes hidden. You can see automatically.
Look at the muscles of this guy.
So they're all hidden. If I want to review it, I can review it. It doesn't actually close the window and anything else. It just ends it. If you want to actually close the window, you can hit the stop button.
That's a great start.
Now what social streaming does is it aggregates all the chat messages, pulls the messages out into social streaming so you can only put it to notifications, but also to the common thing you open up is the doc page. This is the streaming chat page. You can use it as a doc, you can use it as a dashboard in social streaming, or you can use it as a
women. But this guy,
here's the doc page, and you can see that all the incoming chat messages from social streaming are only reviewed. So anytime a new message comes in there, you can hit the stop button, and it goes reactive. Now what social streaming does is it aggregates all the chat messages, pulls the messages out into social streaming so you can only put it notifications, but also to social streaming. The common thing you're looking at is the doc page. This is the streaming chat page.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros. They came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys.
Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them.
I'm sinning. This is a sinning stream.
Man and woman.
Real
Look at that guy, how
enthusiasts.
handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this is a guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys.
Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy,
Oh, fucking TikTok is insane.
this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys.
Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys.
Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong
You get something,
guys.
it's
I walk
working.
in like this, and
I hate being in
I was bending over like this.
Oh, fuck that.
I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too.
But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women.
There it is. All right.
But this guy,
Jack, I need you to
this
switch
guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God,
I'll do my fucking job. I'm sorry.
that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them.
Hello, Chad.
I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man.
No way.
I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all
My
man.
patience.
His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up?
Are we getting some slop? Are we getting some
Black men. I love black men. I love them. kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God.
Important words.
That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this.
When you do a live,
I don't kiss men, but I kissed him.
But what I like to do is whenever someone actually
Look at the
says
muscles of
something,
this guy.
I like to
Excuse me.
overlay
Could you stand up?
on my live stream as irrelevant, right? So they actually want to dive right into the
Men, I love black men. I love them. I love them.
But
I'll
it's
kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
By overlaying
He's got a whole motherfucking angle on him.
on your live stream.
I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this.
What the fuck is this?
I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men, I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is.
Now this file,
I'll kiss him.
I'll be right back.
I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I'm bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men, I love black men. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy,
It's not like you guys are.
this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I'm bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him.
No previous control slash stats are available with
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I'm bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women.
Wow.
But this guy,
That's right.
this guy,
You know what's up.
this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I'm bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is.
What the fuck is the emo?
I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all
like
man.
genuinely like
His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
system TTS.
I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
This Market of Beer Chive
I'm
says,
blowing out my left arm.
Chatting.
Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God, that's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, This guy. This is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men, I love black
People talk
men.
about actual socialism. People talk about effective.
I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man
Don't
and
talk
woman.
about
Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him.
But, hold on.
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men, I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys.
Alright. Is there any, like, slop on my fucking YouTube that I couldn't bear to watch myself? Watch later. There's probably a couple of things.
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand
We're not gonna touch that. Oh, we definitely gotta do this CSIS one.
Are we doing any art today? Let's see. We're done with the tinkering. I feel pretty tinkered out.
I'm very satisfied with the tinkering. Because I mean, take a look at this tinkering. Test. Yep. And that should be a different thing. Yes, it is. Holy fuck. Wow. Wow. Okay, hold on.
This guy,
Please.
this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but
Also, how loud is this?
he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable.
Enable.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big,
Dave.
strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West
逼崽子，你真没见过黑社会哈！操你妈的！
It's broken.
敢不敢跟我比划比划？
Do I have to do a fuck? Wait, do I genuinely? Hold on. Do I genuinely have to have a browser source for every single variety?
Black men, I love black men. I love them.
You're kidding.
I'll kiss every guy, man and woman.
逼崽子，你真没见过黑社会哈！操你妈的！敢不敢跟我比划比划？操你妈！
Yep. That one works.
blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy, this is a guy that was all man. His man was strong and tough. And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God. That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys.
Okay.
Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia.
Yeah, that
big,
one works.
Strong guys. I walk
If I
in
go
on
down
this
here,
and I was bending over like this.
that's the same.
I don't kiss men,
There
but I
should be.
kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up?
逼崽子，你真没见过黑社会啊！操你妈的
Oh my god.
敢不敢跟我比划比划？操你妈！
Okay, so how rare is this?
Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
Frequently? Very frequently. Save.
My left arm, now
So if I do a test,
right arm, and I'm blowing out
okay,
my
that's
damn
one.
throat, too.
Gambling. 2.
Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all
3.
due respect to women, and I love women.
4. What the
But
fuck?
this guy,
Disable.
this
Save
is
settings.
a guy that was all man.
So now it should be
His man was strong and
actually
tough.
random.
And I refuse
Fucking
to say it, but when he took showers
Lord
with the
have
other
mercy.
pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God,
Yep, that one's that.
that's unbelievable.
Best.
Big, strong,
Follow. This
powerful
one should be.
guys. Beautiful guys.
This
See,
one
they're
should
West
be
Virginia,
Tanyama.
big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't
I'm gonna-
kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy.
Yum,
Excuse
yum,
me.
yum.
Could you stand
How is
up?
it possible? I've got all of these deactivated, and it's still going to be sending me that. So if I copy this widget,
I love them.
edit,
Kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look
and
at that guy.
it looks
how
like it's the
handsome he
same fucking
is.
shit.
I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm gonna blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat too. But Arnold Palmer was all man.
逼崽子，你真没见过黑社会啊！逼崽子，你真没见过黑社会啊！操你妈的！
Very,
敢不敢跟我比划比划？操你妈！
His man was strong and tough. And I
very
refuse to say
frequent
it, but when
replacement.
he took showers with the other pros, they came
Why
out
do
of
these
there, they said,
variations
oh my
just
God,
do not work?
that's unbelievable.
You're actually
Big,
kidding me.
strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand
What
up?
in the hell? Alert, widget troubleshooting.
Men, I love black men. I love them.
I can't hear.
I'll kiss every guy, man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm going to blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat, too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy,
Logs.
this is a guy that was
Yeah, alerts. Okay, alerts are popping up. I guess what? So am I just stuck with like one?
And I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, oh my God,
Yeah, but
that's unbelievable.
this is only ever the one fucking video that I've like actually just disabled.
Strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and
Manage variations. Manage variations does not work.
I don't kiss
just
men,
does not work.
but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up?
This is so bizarre.
Black men. I love black men. I love them.
Browse themes?
I'll kiss every
No.
guy, man
I
and
refuse.
woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm gonna blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out
Okay, so
my
if I get
damn
rid of it-
throat too. But Arnold Palmer was all man.
I
And
might
I say
regret
that
this.
in all
I might
due
regret
respect to
this.
women, and I love women. But this guy.
Yep, I regret this.
This
Fucking
guy-
A.
This is a guy.
It actually would rather
His man was
do
strong
fuck
and tough.
all with itself
And I
than
refuse to
show
say
a
it, but when
variation.
He took showers
You have to be
with
kidding
the
me.
other pros. They came out of there. They said, "Oh my God."
It will not.
That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful
I'm kinda
guys.
seething,
They're
actually.
West Virginia,
I'm, like,
big,
genuinely
strong
seething.
Guys, I walk in like this, and I was bending
I don't know how to
over like
explain
this.
it.
I
I'm
don't
like
kiss
kind of
men,
deceived.
but I kissed him. Look at the muscles of this
Clearly
guy.
back in place.
Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss
Midnight
every guy,
Adventure
man
song.
and
Where's my
woman,
default?
Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
Trap beat?
I'm blowing
Fuck,
out my
what is the
left
original
arm.
one?
Now I'm gonna blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat too. But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in all due respect to women, and I love women. But this guy,
Actually, you know what would be a fire
this guy,
voice clip? I think.
this is a guy that was all man.
Where am I gonna
His
find
man
it?
was strong and tough, and I refuse to say it, but when he took showers with the other pros, they came out of there, they said, "Oh my God." That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys. Big,
I did some clips.
strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and I was bending over like this. I don't kiss men, but I kissed him.
Where is it?
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you stand up? Black men. I love black men. I love them. I love them. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
I can't fucking believe it.
I'm blowing out my left arm. Now I'm gonna blow
Where is
out
this
my
shit?
right arm, and I'm blowing out my
I'm
damn
gonna fucking
throat
find it.
too.
Let's investigate.
But Arnold Palmer was all man, and I say that in
this might
all
be it.
due respect to women, and I love
Invalid
women.
file type?
But
Man.
This
Man.
This is a guy that was
Hold on,
all
where is it?
man. His man was strong and
could cut this
tough, and I refuse to say it.
I've got the
but when
tools, I've got the methods, I've
he
been
took
proved,
showers with the
I've
other
developed.
pros, they came out of there, they said, "Oh my God."
Where's this fucking clip?
That's unbelievable. Big, strong, powerful guys.
You were
Big,
absolutely right. You knew it was going to be a train.
beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West
You were
Virginia,
absolutely-
big,
That's true, I am.
guys. I walk
I
in
am
like
always
this,
right.
I was bending over like this. I don't kiss
Yeah,
men,
duck, or
but I
duck,
kissed
duck.
him.
Yeah, dispel.
Nice. I'm taking that.
Look at the muscles of this
Anyway,
guy. Excuse me.
how the
Could
fuck
you
do I
stand
rip
up?
audio off of that? What's the fucking
Men, I
MPreg?
love black men. I love them.
MPreg is like the thing that everybody uses to
Kiss
rip
every
audio
guy,
off.
man and woman, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him.
Chat, I don't know if I want to like actually like react to
Blowing out my
with you
left
guys.
arm. Now I'm gonna blow out my right arm, and I'm blowing out my damn throat too. But Arnold Palmer was all man. and I
Actually,
say
you know
that
what
in
we're
all
gonna
due
do?
respect
You know what
to
we're gonna
women,
do?
I love women.
I know the
But
fucking
this
slap we're
guy,
gonna do. Holy chat, you are not even fucking ready for this
this
slap.
is a guy.
Oh my god.
His
Y'all don't
man
even
was
know.
strong and tough.
Oh my god. I've been
And I
so
refuse
kind
to
to
say
you.
it, but
Look
when
at how
He took
I
showers
am
with
going
the
to
other
fuck
pros.
you.
They came out of there. They said,
Where is it? Browser? No, not browser. Source. I'm looking for a Windows source.
Big, strong, powerful guys. Big, strong, beautiful guys. Beautiful guys. See, they're West Virginia, big, strong guys. I walk in like this, and
Window capture.
I was
Yep.
bending over like this. I don't kiss
There it
men,
is.
but I kiss
There it
them.
is.
Look at the muscles of this guy. Excuse me. Could you
Let's
stand
get
up?
Donald Trump out of here.
Black men, I love black.
Would you look at that? That's right. This is our slop of the night.
There is
This is a 4-year. We're doing a little bit of archaeology. I guess that's what the stream is going to be. Maybe I am going to do some art. Am I going to promo this in the pond? Let's see. Fucking animals. Hey, what's up? How's it going, Mister? You would look. This is a fine fucking stream. You've come across a pivoting point in the marketable domains. I've got. Look at this, Mister.
Mr. Miser 123 says.
Yeah.
Sup.
What's up? How is it? Hi. Putting your ass away. Yeah, let's promo this in the thing. Live digital what are we? We're great and we're mooning. Yeah, we're mooning. We're great and mooning. Alright. Is social stream gonna be so fucking convenient to me that I'm going to be able to like copy a link to it? No, I'm not. Fucking things couldn't be nice. Things couldn't be easy. Hold on, I gotta write down the one thing that I gotta fucking install into OBS. What is it? I think it's a stream elements thing, right? No, it's a social stream. Where the fuck are all my notes? Here we go. Dead air? I've given up. For so long, I have committed myself against the dead air cult. And I think it's worked out well for me. I've developed a lot of better speaking abilities. That's what all this is about. It's about practicing speaking for extended periods of time, being able to follow up on sentences and threads, with a little bit of a cognitive burden, which is the most retarded chat in the world yapping to me about inane bullshit, while the most sophisticated pieces of modern philosophy whizzes through their fucking ears like a fucking train, like a, you know, one of those speed trains going through a Japanese tunnel. Woo! That's how fast the fucking information goes out of you guys' brains. I'm not projecting, you are. Install the, what is this? Social Stream Ninja. Yeah, Social Stream Ninja. Dead air. I mean, dead air is like in broadcast. I mean, this is broadcasting, right? In a certain sense, this is, you are tuning into broadcasting material. Oh, yippee! It says you're on YouTube. I can see. All right, where's the fucking channel copy? And then this copy. Unfortunate. By the way, this is an exclusive stream. This stream is probably, because I've fucked over the thumb. I might be able to fix the thumbnail later. Whatever. It's fine. Actually, hold on. I can fix it now before I fucking embed it into fucking Discord. Every single Discord in the world. What's a shitty ass mess? I need a. I'm a ray of sun. Yee. Ha ha. Woohoo. Yippee. Yow. Can I make this an image? I can't. This is a rather ominous thumbnail. Actually, this is a good one. Wait, this is out. Actually, I'm saving this. Okay. All right. I may have cooked. Maybe we're gonna let the stream run for like 5 minutes. We're gonna let the stream run for like 5 minutes, and the thumbnail's gonna take. It's gonna work. The thumbnail is in fact going to work. So if I hold on, yeah, that is in fact that, and then where is YouTube? Let's cross that out. There we go. I know there's a ton of fucking gooners in here. Bastiat gooners, I mean. There we go. I think it's good. Hello, Pond. Yeah, we've been live for like an hour. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a flying fuck. Consistency? Who? I'm keeping you guys on your toes. I'm keeping myself on my toes. My job is keeping me on my toes. Yippee! I'm keeping myself on my toes. Self-promote. And then... Yep. Send. That's fine for now. All right, what do you have to say for yourself?
Mr. Miser 123 says, apologies,
We'll do
Radio
later.
Dead Air is a long-standing YouTube channel for like 13 years. It's run by a guy named Nash who covers weird news.
Nash? I mean... Oh, the name of the channel is Dead Air. No, Dead Air is a demon which haunts almost all pervasive systems of being able to transfer knowledge between people. So it is what it is. Hold on, get the fuck off my screen. You're done. You're not getting any more of those, by the way. I was nice. I was being kind. Oh, what was I cutting in fucking OBS? I wanted to rip audio for something. Oh, that's right. It was this. Yep. I remember. New project is Dispel is always right. We are cracking down on the Dispel marketable stream. The markets are in turmoil, and we need to make sure that everything is spick and span. And part of that is going to involve changes around here. You don't have to worry. Good things. Uniting things, I think, is what I would actually prefer to call it. Uniting things is what's about to hit us. We're gonna be so united, you're not even gonna know. Yep, change time frame. And then can I export just like the audio here? Delete this. And then I need to...
Dispel.
There we go.
Dispel. You were absolutely right. Yeah, Dispel.
There we go. Cut.
Yeah, Dispel.
Chat, don't cut yourself.
You were absolutely right. You knew it was gonna be a train wreck.
Easy fucking follow click. Fucking follow sound clip. Here we go. Mark in. Mark out. Fine, I'll get the fucking scene running. Actually, you know what? I baited you guys for just a mother. I'm gonna lose it. Get this shit out of here. New private. Here we go. This is what we're actually watching, chat. For now. Okay. And then where's the other one? Where's the other one? Where in my history? What in tarnation? We're organized. There it is. Fucking same conversation 4 years later. My God. Here we go. I've saved it. I've fucking salvaged it. All right, we've got 2 things going on the docket today. A little bit of digital archaeology. 4 years ago, April 18th, 2021. That is, yeah, that's actually almost 5 years. That's, I'm not sure if it would be appropriate to call that 4 years. I think that would be closer to 5 years. Hi, 2-Bit, how's it going? We've got a little bit of renovation going on around here. Is this gonna make a TTS? No, it's not. We've got renovations going on. I've improved. I've redecorated, as you can see, the nest. We've got a little bit of content. Hold on, we're reacting. This is a video. We love a little trinkle of actually useful information on this stream. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Here you go. There you go. Just for you. If you send emotes, though. If you send emotes, I think on Twitch, they'll bounce around. Whatever. We're reacting to this.
I'm Philip Luck, Scholl Chair in International Business and Economics Program Director here at CSIS.
This might.
Today we're going to be talking about one of the most important economic security levers the United States has, which is immigration policy.
It's H-1B. Yeah, let's get some H-1B takes. Everybody has been dying for the Dispel marketable H-1B takes. In
the United States, immigration policy has been an important driver of economic security for basically our entire existence. There's been no country that has grown as consistently or as fast as the United States over 2 centuries. And that is due almost to an enormous degree to immigration policy.
Now, anytime you guys send emails, it's going to look like it's bouncing around my head.
That strength, in some sense, does have a risk of eroding. As you can see here on this graph, we have a graph.
The newsification of finance has been a disaster. Like, this is like weatherman fucking cadence. I hate.
So if you take a look at this graph, look at me with my from the late 1980s through 2023. And as you can see, the growth in the U.S. population, especially for working age folks, has been declining, especially since around 2000.
U.S. shrinking workforce is an acute demographic challenge. It is acute. Interesting. Interesting choice of words, I would like to say. Working age 15 to 64. But growth by month. Oh, I see. So this is like new jobs? Mm-hmm.
There's been a little bit of a spike in the last few years, and it continues a bit after that as well. But that spike is entirely due to increases in immigration. And to the degree to which we restrict the flow of immigrants, we are going to restrict the growth of the U.S. economy.
These fucking hacks are all about increasing the growth of the economy. Anytime that these fucking hacks want to talk about immigration, they should first and foremost pay lip service to actually taking care of the people who are here. Like, at this point, like, I can't take it. If you're going to talk about immigration and like bringing people in, you have to do the fucking virtue signal. You have to, at least to me, for me, you have to do that fucking virtue signal first. Like, the institutions need to take care of the people here. Like, this is an adoption of new people because you can't take care of the old ones. That is a meat grinding machine. That is not what America should be. I think America is at its worst when it's attracting people exclusively for the appeal to work. But, you know, I guess what? So whatever. Work is a gift. The spell is always correct. .mov. Chat, I'm plugging this in. I'm sending this to the Mossad agent. It's going to be playing in your dreams. It's true. You're going to be listening to Dispel is always correct. Every single night. Where is details? Titles, content? Motherfucker. That ain't it. Date created. Why the fuck is that at the very end? Today's 211.jpg? Did this not export? It is an art. It should be. This spell is always correct. All files. Oh, yeah. Do I have to? I'm not entirely incompetent, I swear. Where the fuck is this audio file? MP3. View. Hold on. Sort by date. Date. Oh, God. Date. I'm gonna lose it. Did it not add to the queue? Is that what happened? One track per audio. Single clip, browse. How the fuck do I add this to my... I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. Is this video running? I can't hear it.
That's labor force. And one very important tool for growing the U.S. economy has been, especially in high-skilled occupations, the H-1B program. So, Thibault, if you wouldn't mind...
Especially in high occupations. Our decrepit and dysgenic bourgeois class is so fucking inept, they can't even train the next generation of shamans to take care of the institutions. So we need to import it elsewhere.
Tell us a little bit about this program and the importance of it for the U.S. economy.
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Phil. So the H-1B program is a critical pathway for U.S. high-skilled immigration, right? It prioritizes foreign workers with specialty skills in those occupations.
You think you're coy.
So on the left-hand side, you know, sort of this green line here, we see the H-1B lottery success rate, right? Actually, how many immigrants get an H-1B visa after applying for lottery? In 2014, just not that long ago, that number was around 70%, right? And then it steadily declined all the way to 2024, the latest numbers, to under 20%. The H-1B program over the last decade has become an increasingly oversubscribed program. Now, on the right-hand side, we see the number of non-working age people per 100 working age adults, right? What we call the age dependency ratio. That number has been going up. As in 2014, there was about 49 non-working age people per 100 working age adults.
Non-working age people, so elderly. So the burden has increased from 50 to 54, about 10%. Okay. Social burden has increased 10% since 2014. Awesome. I would love to see this graph since 2008, when the big stuff happened, you know? The real schizophrenics understands. They get it.
Age between 20 to 65. Now that number is over 54, and that has pretty severe consequences for the U.S. economy because it puts more and more pressure on the U.S. workforce.
Yeah, so that's a really important point. So not only is the growth rate of the working age population declining, because we have such a large population that is older, the baby boomers and others, the number of workers that are able to support every retiree has been declining. That means there's more pressure on all of us to support Social Security, Medicare, and other programs that support the elderly. And so we can only really support those through kind of two mechanisms. One,
is this not an MP3?
Extreme population growth. The other is a big productivity growth that makes us have more income now to pay for those. So again, thinking about this program, one really important point here is the fact that the H-1B program, there's a lot of demand for those visas, and the supply is not keeping up. So if we think about that program, a lot of times people think about tech service jobs, right? But that's not the only thing there. So what else do we have as sort of occupations and industries that are fed and sort of powered by this program?
Right, so the H-1B program is dominated by professional, scientific, and technical services, but one of the reasons why it's a bit of a problem that, you know, we saw an oversubscription that doesn't meet U.S. workforce needs is because the H-1B recipients can support a lot of other sectors that are critical to American life, right? The H-1B recipients are critical to supporting the manufacturing sector, they're critical to supporting the educational services and healthcare services sectors. All very important to the U.S. economy.
We need more Filipino nurses.
One good way of sort of fixing this oversubscription issue would be to expand capacity of the H-1B program, sort of raise the cap from 65,000 plus 20,000 masters and PhD to higher numbers to make sure that they could actually...
Shut up, policy wonks, with your fucking diversity pie. Your capitalist, your big capitalist pie that's fucking growing bigger and bigger. Your engorged capitalist pie. Put on the side for now. Take a listen.
Yeah, Dispel. You were absolutely right. You knew it was going to be a train wreck.
Hold on. There we go. And then, where's my audio? Or where's my file? Here we go. Select, save. Save. And then?
Yeah, Dispel, you were absolutely right. You knew it was going to be a train wreck.
Easy. Easy, easy, easy. Pizza pie.
Efficiently support all of these very important sectors, right?
I can put it away.
Let's take a quick look at one sector that's especially critical to both the U.S. economy as well as U.S. strategic interests, right? The semiconductor sector.
Not save that project because it don't matter. Maybe we'll do TikTok.
The U.S. semiconductor industry is set to grow and add more positions in the next 5 years or so, right? The U.S. semiconductor sector is both economically important and strategically important. Economically, it supports around 1 million jobs and adds $250 billion annually to the U.S. GDP. Strategically, obviously semiconductors, power, anything that has a on and off switch, basically, including technologies with military applications. So what are we seeing on this graph, right? What we're seing is that the supply of workers in 2030
this guy's taking the fucking power stance.
Going to be able to replace workers that are getting out of the workforce, and they're certainly not going to be able to fulfill the additional jobs that are going to result from the U.S. semiconductor industry. Right? So across technicians, engineers, computer scientists, we're going to be missing tens of thousands of workers within the next 5 years.
Fucking God.
Yeah, so that's really important. Again, those dark blue is sort of those who are needed for, or that's the workers available for replacement or need to be replaced, and the green is sort of the projected supply. So just that does not sort of affect, you know, that's just status quo. That's sort of like equilibrium. We need to add more on top of that, which we don't have the ability to do currently.
Right, absolutely. And so one good way to fix this issue that's relevant to the H-1B program, right, in addition to adding more capacity for the program, generally speaking, is to emphasize what we would call strategic sectors, right? Sectors that are particularly, again, important to the U.S. economy and its strategic interests. So right now we're looking at semiconductors.
So what he's saying is America should really look into getting foreigners to staff its most strategic institutions. Awesome. I love the geniuses at CSIS. I love the geniuses at CSIS.
The program could be weighted in a way that prioritizes, again, manufacturing, educational services, healthcare services, and others. A good way to do that would be to place additional weight on these applications during the lottery process.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a lottery, because it's oversubscribed, we can sort of choose how we weight those lottery options to support things, everything from, you know, semiconductor manufacturing all the way to shipbuilding, which is a big priority of this administration as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so it's another really important point here about this. You know, I think even though we sort of can say that there's this excess of demand for labor, there's still a sort of popular refrain that these types of programs and these types of visas take jobs away from Americans, and even high-skilled jobs at that. But you know, what the data shows is really not that at all. It shows quite the opposite. So we have one really good experiment of a reduction in this program in the past. So in 2004, the cap on H-1B visas went down by 40%. And as a result of that, if you would have potentially seen an increase in employment of sort of more high-skilled workers in the United States. But we saw something that's much more interesting and sort of cuts against that as sort of a strategic advantage, because what we did see was those big
firms depended on H-1 overshores when visas are restricted. Okay, so what is this? Average foreign affiliate employments. So the ones that were very H-1B dependent actually got more? Despite capping it? This is... God,
firms that sort of continue to hire domestic workers, instead of hiring more domestic workers, they actually increased their demand of foreign workers. They did offshoring. So the way you can see this in this graph, this is what's called sort of an event study. In 2004, we saw a 40% reduction in the cap on H-1B program.
Okay, but if you're going to do an event study, show us the fucking 10 years afterwards as well. Like, before you fucking do the modification.
The foreign hiring of
you gave us fucking 1, 2, 3, 4 data points for us to contrast against 10 years.
That are not
actually slay yourself,
They're not really affected by that reduction.
Actually,
in dark blue, you have the number of foreign employees of U.S. firms that were dependent on the H-1B program. And what we see there is a really sizable increase in their demand for foreign workers in the exact same occupations that they used to use the H-1B program to fill. So what we see from that, and this research by Britta Glennon, who's an economist at Penn, also an affiliate of the economics program here at CSIS, this research shows that for every visa that's restricted, these big multinationals will hire roughly between a half and one additional foreign worker in these high-skill occupations. So not only are we not incentivizing these work to be done here in the United States, we're incentivizing it to be done in other jurisdictions, which may or may not be aligned with the United States, and therefore create an economic security challenge for the United States as well.
And Phil, that number is particularly important.
Okay, this is probably a good point. I kind of don't understand enough of what he said.
Last September, the administration imposed a $100,000 fee on H-1B applications coming from outside the United States. So, if you're an international student that's going from an F1 to an H-1B already in the US, that doesn't concern you. But for really the majority of H-1B applications coming from the outside, you are now facing an administrative fee of $100,000. That's a staggering increase in administrative costs.
No,
and that is a de facto restriction such as the one that Britta Glennon showed in her study here that's bound to be offshoring jobs rather than giving more jobs to American workers.
Yeah, exactly. So again, these fees were historically around like $4,000 or $5,000, really small numbers, now $100,000. So we can really think about those restrictions, that being a restriction very similar to what was been studied in the past. So this is in real terms an incentive to offshore these strategic important occupations. So overall, we think
offshore strategic. Why? Just like bring it home. I don't understand.
Think that immigration is a key foreign policy and industrial policy tool of the United States. It has been a key driver of economic growth in the United States for multiple centuries at this point. And we think with relatively small strategic tweaks to the immigration program, specifically the H-1B program, the United States can better leverage this program to meet both its domestic economic objectives as well as its economic strategic objectives as well. Those changes are to expand the cap to allow more into the program because it's far oversubscribed, to when you expand the cap, prioritize strategic sectors where we have either foreign policy,
every single fucking policy is like pro destruction of any sort of infrastructure or incentive system to actually develop the skills necessary to fill it. And because they're like, oh, you're just gonna like outsource it, you're just gonna actually like done, I'm done. All right, this is what we're actually listening to. I don't know if we're gonna do 2 fucking full hours of this, but a lot of people that I'm very familiar with like this guy. Actually, like both of the guys in this conversation.
On my forehead.
I'm very curious. I watched some of it. I have.
Well, I've decided I'm going
about
full
half
Elon
of
Musk
this
in the event.
I've watched.
Pulling, I'm just
but I gotta watch it
every
with
dollar I got.
I gotta watch it with
Chat.
I gotta watch it with Chat.
Because I gotta work with what I got.
And the question is, has
Hutch the before and after for Elon is astounding.
Has he always been retarded? Has
he got some work
performative?
Done. Good for him.
Pretty wild. The guy does PayPal.
I think I know that person actually.
Well,
what
anyway.
the fuck?
So I appreciate you chatting with me. I know we've talked a lot on Twitter, and it's I've heard you in a lot of the conversations you've had with Destiny and with at least one with Hassan, and so I thought it'd be cool to chat with you sometime.
I think you had an extreme reaction to one of the clips of me debating Hassan when we were discussing the most dangerous institutions in the world, and he said that I remember there was a clip of yours that
he's the most dangerous institution.
Sent to me where you just like lost it. Wow. Because Hassan had said that that the RNC was the most, or I guess the Republican Party. Is the most destructive institution in the world, and the second most destructive institution was the Democratic Party.
Yeah, Hutch fucking literally said this exact line like 3 days ago.
And you brought up like Chinese Communist Party.
Hassan probably still believes it. But
what else you brought up. But
if you want to have a fucking flowchart conversation with somebody, you're gonna have a flowchart conversation with somebody.
Democrats because not all of them are on board with Medicare for all yet, right? So that one.
Look, he's gonna schizophrenize it.
That said, I also realized, I guess at that point, after that, I was just thinking, probably not a good idea to be one of those screamy React streamers.
Yeah, better not.
It's fun for a little while, and then I feel like it gets a little stressful.
Hutch, you feel like it gets
for me,
it gets a little stressful after a while, bud. 4 years later, an entire hairline gone. Oh nope, it was actually already gone here.
For me, politics.
Hutch, your bit is still the amount of cortisol getting spiked.
I've kind of stepped back a little bit.
If you could have like a little widget being like
in the last month
cortisol spike meter, if there's something like that for the stream ninja. Oh my fucking! I've got people who I'm familiar with, agents, practicers of the arcane, who can build OBS plugins to measure cortisol. Like you can have like you can genuinely have like a prick always like feeding your cortisol levels to a machine.
It's because I felt myself going down a road of I don't want to be one of these people that discusses politics and then it's just nothing but blood sport shit.
Yeah, Hutch.
And ego. Like,
you
I feel like there's a lot of
hate
ego
that
when it comes to these big debates, because it's more about looking credible with your audience instead of actually like a good faith attempt to have a discussion where you're trying to get at the truth. So you know.
Yeah.
But I wonder. You're a self-described neoliberal. You're a big free market guy. I wonder if what that has been like for you on Twitch for like the last year, because it seems like on Twitch or on social media,
been like?
The extremes are really popular, right? So you got like the MAGA people, and then you got the you got the
you know, the left, as it were, which as far as a concept goes, I mean,
it really just doesn't exist.
The idea of there being a left itself, you know, with all the little splintering factions of it. But yeah, you're right. It is. It can be somewhat lonely. You know, it's somewhat.
It can be
somewhat. I guess unique position to have on Twitch. But really, usually folks treat it as more of a curiosity.
We're gonna let this play for a little bit while I get some food.
What is this? What is this about, man? You know, because if I'm not, at least I remember when I started out. You know, apart from folks like you and Destiny, it was just commies and conservatives, man. I mean, straight up, it's crazy, and not just conservatives.
I actually kind of
like
don't.
Trump.
I kind of don't want to like
take
my eyes off the screen. This is like
stuff.
This is cinema.
Do you view communism as inherently evil?
By the way,
no, it's.
My theory is Hutch is just as retarded now, or in this video. And hold on, in this video as fucking goddamn it, I can't do that during a screen. In this video as he is like today. Hold on. It was right when he brought it back up. All right, I'm gonna make some fucking food, so I'm not like starving and like mad and like literally frothing at the mouth for any reason to be mean to somebody. I'm gonna be nicer to chat if I eat. Okay, I think that makes sense.
Stepping back all the way, but just in the last month or two, step back just a little bit, just to kind of give myself some space, because I felt myself going down a road of I don't want to be one of these people that discusses politics and then it's just nothing but blood sport shit.
Yeah.
And ego. Like, feel like there's a lot of ego when it comes to these big debates, because it's more about looking credible with your audience instead of actually like a good faith attempt to have a discussion where you're trying to get at the truth. So, you know.
Yeah.
But I wonder, you're a self-described neoliberal. You're a big free market guy. I wonder if what that has been like for you on Twitch for like the last year, because it seems like on Twitch or on social media, the extremes are really popular, right? So you got like the MAGA people, and then you got the you got the
you know, the left, as it were, which as far as a concept goes, I mean, that is the idea of there being a left itself, you know, with all the little splintering factions of it. But yeah, you're right. It is. It can be somewhat lonely. You know, it's a somewhat, I guess, unique position to have on Twitch. But really, usually, folks treat it as more of a curiosity. Really, like, what is this? What is this about, man? You know, because if I'm not, at least I remember when I started out. You know, apart from folks like you and Destiny, it was just commies and conservatives.
2BitDork 952 says
crazy, and not just conservatives.
I mean, Nest
like
stream.
Trump conservatives, you know, serious like MAGA stuff.
Do you view communism as inherently evil?
No, it's just one of those things. It's not. It's not like the Nazis, where straight up the evil is baked into the plan. Like, part of the plan is annihilate the X, right? I mean, you know, and that's, I guess that may not be all fascists, but it's certainly Nazis. It's certainly in Hitler's book years before he ever got power. It's like, you know, we need to conquer this slice of Russia and wipe out the people there for living space. So yeah, it's pretty baked in evil right there. But at this point, you know, 100 years after the establishment of the first communist state, 2 or 3 dozen other ones, I mean, I know they'll say, well, you know, that wasn't communism. And, you know, academically speaking, perhaps it does not match with what Marx had in mind, but it is nevertheless what continually develops where it is tried, and it has virtually always led to bad outcomes. And where it's led to some benefit, it just seems like, why wouldn't you then be looking at, I don't know, Norway, Sweden, Germany, one of these, you know, social democracy type countries that has managed to get a lot of the outcomes that folks on the left would like? I mean, why wouldn't you look at that? You know, why would you look at somebody like, say, these Twitter tankies? You know, why would you look at them instead of looking at somebody like, you know, I'm not sure if you're familiar with his work, but somebody like James Medlock or Matt Bruenig from the People's Policy Project. These are lefty people who, they're, you know, I shouldn't say lefty people. They are social democrats / socialists, and Matt Bruenig certainly describes himself as a socialist, to be clear. And they provide policy discussions. You know, they talk about this stuff, and they provide ideas for how, you know, you could democratically bring the means of production under control of society, i.e. the state, right? And while that still isn't something I'd like to do, if you're attracted by those ideas, why would you look to the failures of the past instead of looking to, you know, say Norway, which has a huge amount of its economy under state control, but is still nevertheless a prosperous democracy? There's some unique things there that we don't have, right? It's a small country. It's also got a ton of unique oil wealth, but, you know, just why wouldn't you look at that, right? So I don't you don't identify as a SOCDEM? You no,
like full on...
but it's very, I think the overlap is, you know, it's considerable. It's just that I suppose they have different ideas about what, you know, what freedom is, whether freedom should be, you know, more, pronounced as a policy objective than like equality. But generally, I think, you know, like you mentioned with the politics of today, with these radicals, you know, everywhere, it feels like online. I mean, they're usually allies rather than, you know, competitors.
It's a shame because I fall into this trap quite a bit where I find myself talking about, you know, like I genuinely thought.
All right, I'm back. Hello. Hutch really, yeah, Hutch does not know what liberal, illiberal means. It is like all sort of like empty signifiers, and it's so tough for him to maintain the nuance or the substance when you actually like call into question what he's asking. Very, very tough. Is there a particular segment that that brought that up? I mean, in all honesty, we're probably just going to continue because I think this was a more left period in Hutch's life. I think. Tough to say.
About a year ago.
But I've got food now. I've actually like entirely cozyfied. I've got that blanket that all those like fucking Chinese wives wear to stay warm. I've also got something delicious. Chat, take a headphone users, turn everything up. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, and zesty a little bit. Don't mind if I do. All right, let's run it.
When I was a big Bernie guy, and you know, people were making jokes about hammers and sickles and stuff like that, and comrades and guillotines and whatnot. I genuinely thought it was a joke.
Yeah,
like Hutch was like, "Oh, you guys are joking about killing people, right?"
Serious.
It's fucking idiot.
But it is kind of a trap because we're talking about a disproportionate.
You guys are LARPing, right? I'm LARPing.
An insignificant chunk of the country.
Yeah, I fucking can't.
That hold on to these beliefs. It just so happens they're very loud on Twitter, and some of them are very good at getting Twitter likes.
And 5 years later, you're still fucking.
I've seen blow up with like 50,000, 80,000 likes.
Oh boy!
With the cringiest takes possible.
It's super wild. The only thing I would say about them is that I agree right now they're pretty irrelevant. I would only say a couple of things.
Brother, this is 2021.
I agree that they should be focused on
the far left
somewhat accordingly. But it is worth remembering that a lot of the things they say do line up with the geopolitical objectives of now the second most powerful country in the world. So I have no doubt that there will be some folks who make those same arguments who will...
True, they are compromised by China.
The United States supports pro-democracy or pro-whatever its interests at the time, supports those kinds of groups. I am sure that groups like this, and I shouldn't say just, anybody on Twitter.com who you disagree with is getting support from the Chinese government, but... of course, eventually folks like this, if they don't already, will get amplified by their media sources, their resources. So that's one. And two, I think back to like what the alt-right was like early on. They were pretty insignificant for a while. And then one day, especially after the election, all I heard anywhere was how this is like not just a bunch of Nazis. This is like a nascent new right. These are people who are like competing for the... In
fucking 2021, he's being informed that there's a nascent new right, fascist right forming. And in the modern day, he still believes that there's a nascent.
Will militant communists ever get there? I don't know that they'll ever get
insane,
quite there,
deferred relationship to the future.
They might be more someday than screamers on Twitter. So somewhere in between, I guess.
Maybe that could be a cross that bridge when we get there kind of thing. Because I think we're like 10, 20 years out from them being a political force on the level of MAGA people. But, let me just switch gears for a second, because I would describe myself like most. I'm gonna be that annoying like hipster kind of person and say like I don't love labels most of the time, because I feel like it doesn't really. Like a lot of times,
I hate labels.
Mean very different things to very different people. Like there
I
are
struggle
some
with
in my
labels
chat that don't even probably consider me to be on the left. Even though I wouldn't have that same description. But how did you get? I mean, where does your faith in the free market come from? Well, besides, like you might point to things like
what a great question. Faith in the free market is actually
across the world. I mean,
not a midwit question. Good job.
Medical innovation.
Good job, Hutch.
Competition has spurred a lot of really important innovation in the last century because of these sorts of things. But when I think of the free market, I think of exploitation. And this is where you kind of lost me a little bit in your debate with Vosh. And I thought that you made some points that I found compelling, but when you got hung up on the term exploitation, and there was the coconut on the island or whatever, and your reticence to call that exploitation really confused me.
Well, so. First of all, somebody in my chat just said, will militant communists ever really get anywhere? Quote, the Russian monarchy, 1900. So hopefully not, right? But I get what you're saying. So that one was a real doozy. That was not my best performance. But I made a classic junior level lawyer error and got hung up on the meaning of a word instead of what we were trying to get at, rather what Bosch was trying to get at there. So that wasn't handled very well. But let me get to that. So the reason I was frustrated by where we were going is that I was trying to frame coercion as something that is violence and force, right? Not just need, right? Or control over access to something, right? And I think Bosch had sort of got with this when he was saying, are you talking about basically implicit versus explicit coercion?
Okay, so this is the distinction between biopower and necropower.
And that would have been, I should have said, yeah, that's what I mean.
Right, so I guess in the Coconut Island analogy, the analogy is the biopower of accumulation.
I was a little too...
Yeah, that's what's getting highlighted.
That's
you were fired up in the beginning, though. You did calm yourself down. I did notice that you brought your levels down by the end, but...
It was not my... I was fired up, because I watched this video he did with this guy, Hakeem. And it really
it's not exploitation, and I don't have a better word for it.
I felt like I had no idea who this guy really was. And then now they're having, I think, another beef. So I don't know. Now I kept bringing up things that this guy, who's a very pro-violent revolution communist type, was saying, and Vosh would kind of nod along, and I'd say, that's just kind of really like, what? I thought we were sort of different visions, but sort of similar paths to get there, I guess. So I was a little heated by that.
But so if we could bring it back to the free market stuff.
Yeah.
So for example, we talked in the DMs like months ago, and I brought up healthcare, and I think you expressed willingness to make sure that certain sectors like healthcare weren't beholden to the profit motive. But like if I can bring it to another issue when I think of climate, right? So if climate, if the climate experts are correct, and we're barreling.
There's no fucking way. 5 years ago, he was actually talking about the climate.
Towards catastrophe in the next couple of decades here. And then let's play it out to the worst case scenario. This planet is totally uninhabitable after a couple hundred years or something.
Oh, he's a catastrophic subject.
Could you not blame free market economics for that for the destruction of the planet? And would that
interesting. Okay, steel manning the degrowth argument.
And ask if government should be involved a little bit more.
Sure. Well, first of all, to start, I'd say that government should be involved in this, but in different ways perhaps than some people might say. So you could say that in the sense, though, that I think you would say that human development comes at environmental costs, and the more that you do, the more environmental cost there is. So to the extent that I'll kind of explain this a little bit. So I absolutely agree that untrammeled economic development, especially at this point, now we're aware of all of the costs, particularly with respect to carbon, comes at environmental costs. If there is no
carbon,
typically if there's no kind
carbon
of
financial,
because the cost of something like carbon is not properly accounted for. So if you don't, when
oh my god, the
carbon,
externality is he going to actually like refute against
the environment, right? But I'm still generating some carbon emissions with that, all right? So when I do that, right, what is the cost of that to me? Only the cost of the gasoline, right? I don't have to pay for cleaning that up. It just goes into the sky and I don't deal with it, right? So there's no cost there. And one of the things that I would suggest that we do is we tax that kind of issue, right? We up the taxes on things like carbon, therefore, on the cost of gasoline to account for the cost of cleaning it up, the cost of building clean energy, the cost of the fledgling carbon scrubbing technology, things like that. We would want a tax to pay for those sorts of things. You would also want eventually to phase stuff out, the way that we, for example, phased out leaded gasoline. Now, some people would say, well, it's not very revolutionary, right? There are other things we need to do, and certainly there are. Like, for example, let's see, a generation portfolio standard. So like a state says that by X year, we're going to generate X amount of energy from Y source, right? And what state are you located in, Hutch?
California.
California. Okay, so California is a great example of a state that has done a lot on renewable energy. It has also some pretty good hydroelectric resources. Not every state has those, but California's gone beyond that. And it has a lot of solar. I don't know much about the wind situation in California.
There's some, but I don't know. I mean, there's some. There's definitely windmills in California.
Yeah, so there's a lot of progress being made there. There was a lot of progress being made in Texas on renewable energy. Now that some people have falsely blamed wind for the recent weather catastrophe in Texas, we'll see if that continues. But Texas was generating at one point a quarter of its energy from wind power. And it did very little. It had very little. It didn't even have the kind of depth of like hydroelectric resources that California had. So you can do things here with state power. But what I would say though is there are two things I'd caution about.
Real quick though, I mean, why stop there? Why stop there though? Yes. I mean, if we're talking about addressing a problem that's as big that's so big that it potentially threatens all life on Earth, why would you stop at simple measures like carbon taxes or whatnot? Why would you not take it a step further and say, well, let's nationalize the energy industry, or let's
let's talk about that. So suppose we nationalize the oil industry, and we get the United States government in the business of producing oil, presumably for some kind of revenue in exchange, perhaps even a very increasing.
They already do.
There are a couple of things I would think about that. One, to the extent that we, it would depend, of course, on how it's done. It's possible the United States government could get into the oil business and do a good job of it. It's possible to do a bad job of it. But if the government gets into the oil business, you might ask why the United States government would be a responsible steward here and not a steward that would come to depend on that revenue, much in the same way that state governments have come to depend on the revenue of, say, cigarettes, which at one point, which now they sell bonds on the back of, which they levy higher and higher taxes on, balance budgets in part on. I would be somewhat concerned about the notion of saying, well, we'll just have the government do all the energy, because there are different incentives there. I think it would probably be better for the government to increasingly make it more uneconomical to do polluting energy, carbon-intensive energy, first coal, eventually natural gas, incentivize nuclear, incentivize renewables, rather than to just put it all in the hands of the government. Especially because there are examples of where that has been done and is done to this day, and where the question of renewable energy, I think, is more complicated. Like a country that really starts to depend on that kind of revenue, that has a massive stake in its energy industry. Mexico, for example, is a country that has a huge stake. That its budget has come to depend on oil revenues, and as a result, it's hard to imagine that that country will just its oil industry will be phased out peaceably. And where's that money going to come from? Will people consent to higher taxes to make up for it? Perhaps, but will they consent to it for a long period of time? And that's why one of the things I would say with respect to government action is we do have to remember that we live in a democracy and we have to take government action that people are willing to sustain over different election cycles. Because if people feel as if they're giving up too much and not getting anything for it, that's, I think, where you get reactions that sort of undo the good that government can do. So I'd be cautious about,
You seem fixated on the...
What a clever operative. What a clever operative. He doesn't denounce carbon credits like I would, but talks about the different ways that the government can get involved to alternate and to push and to nudge people off of certain things. Yeah.
Oil part of it. I'm not talking about the entire energy industry. So hopefully, if we did something like nationalize energy in this country, we would continue to be on a path towards renewable energy and phasing oil out altogether. But I still have to say that these measures that you're proposing seem like a half measure maybe they're applicable now, but there are some people that are already arguing that we're 2 decades behind or 3 decades behind in addressing this. Could you envision the problem getting so bad and the urgency increasing so much that you would be in favor of nationalizing this industry?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what you'd be trying to do. Like, what would your goal be in nationalizing it? And what parts of it, since you said
we
the whole
need
thing,
so much industry for our AI data centers. It needs to be nuclear now.
You would want to invest money in maintaining the infrastructure so you wouldn't have a situation.
Bruh, in the time that this fucking video was like published, we could have had fucking like 3 more nuclear power plants.
To sustainability. I don't know how realistic that is, but I'm making the argument that we could get to a point where that we have no other option.
Yeah.
Like we've done so much damage, and we've taken our time so much in addressing this problem. Well, now it's become necessary to nationalize these industries and these companies, and then take drastic measures to reduce the carbon footprint to avoid catastrophe.
Sure. Well, so there are several things I would say about that. So it might take a minute, but I will try.
I feel like Hutch is just probing.
So one, the question of nationalization. Efficiency aside, right? The government can't just declare we do this now. We own the factories. We are the only ones allowed to build, say, solar panels, and we are the only ones who will do it, and all that. Right? They can't take all that stuff without paying, without compensating the owners.
The takings clause, which we should have
because the government, in order to nationalize in this country, has to buy everything. Perhaps they could create conditions which are so uneconomical along the way that the company would sell at rock bottom prices, but even that could arguably be seen constitutionally, under our constitution as a kind of taking that would have to be compensated. So that's one thing, right? If you're going to nationalize in this country, you can't just do it like in some countries where you can do it for free. The government's going to have to lay out a lot of money to do it. So that's one thing. Two, it is also important to remember that the United States, for all its wealth and economic influence and pollution, is only about 15% of carbon emissions worldwide. So before the United States,
highest China.
Yeah, highest per capita for sure. But again, 15%. If the United States disappeared tomorrow, and nothing else changes in the world. I mean, that's you've still got 85% of your problem there. So it's not to say that the United States shouldn't do things, but it is to say that before we say
we're also a global leader, though. So
yeah, absolutely.
Other countries take our example and then reflect those policies in their own countries.
And so what we should do is, before I think we take an action like, say, buying the entire, or the federal government nationalizing the entire energy industry, we should look toward, one, whether we can continue to subsidize production of renewables, continue to tax and otherwise, regulate, punish production of, alternatives, for one. And two, work with countries overseas, around the world to create binding targets for carbon emissions. Because without binding international targets, it seems very difficult to imagine selling these very deep cuts in carbon emissions domestically. For example, if we do carbon taxes on our own, and they're really high, right? They're not, it's not 2 or 3%, some really high amount that really does start to punish people who are rolling coal, punish power plants that are still running dirty energy, and on and on and on, right? If we do that, and that increases the cost of living for people, I think they'll be prepared to do that for at least some period of time. But as that kind of cost continues to accumulate, one, people who are able to pick up and move to other countries to engage in the same kind of, economic activity, if there's some kind of production that's very carbon intensive, will consider doing that. And two, I think voters will start to wonder, why are we doing this if we don't have, if we're not doing this in tandem with others? So that's the big thing.
It couldn't work unless there were lateral opportunities for the people that were working in these industries. It couldn't work. You would lose. Democrats would lose every state that they need to win. So I'm not proposing something like nationalizing the energy industry in the absence of training programs, compensation, jobs in lateral renewable energy industries. It simply couldn't work without. I agree with you. Like you couldn't just disrupt this industry like that and then expect not to pay a serious political price for doing
I don't understand how nationalizing. I'm going to be so honest. Boots on the ground. I don't understand how nationalizing disrupts an industry. Right? Like it's pretty much just like the board is replaced with government bureaucrats, and I guess they appoint like a CEO or something. Like there's all sorts of shit that goes like from there. There's all sorts of opportunities and changes and modifications that can be made, and whatever, like objectives and goals and measurements to be done to record like how successful you've been over the last year. Hi Salty Squid, how's it going? Great to have you around this time of evening. I'm one Guinness beer in to this digital archive, to this digital archaeology right here. Back when Hutch was more of a man, I think, is the potential that we're going with this stream. And he's actually come up against a very potent psychic warrior who has grifted himself as a moderate conservative, and he doesn't say the things that I would expect of a leftist mindset, but he does seem to have that sort of background. You're chilling this weekend, all right?
I'm done 4 years later.
Let's chill together.
The example of that really comes to mind is
relax.
President Obama's Clean Power Plan, which, the first and foremost problem with that was that they tried to do it through regulation alone. There was no additional legislation, and so that made it harder to get the the legal foundation to be able to do this big program of saying, states have to meet certain targets for how much energy they generate. From certain sources. And then once President Trump took office, because that was, so because there was no legislation, people tried to challenge it in court and say, this isn't what the law was intended to do. This was a law about air quality, not about renewable energy. So they tried to challenge it like that. And then once President Trump took office, he just wiped it out because it was all administratively done. So, I think you're right that it's important to think about how to do this stuff in the long term. And I agree that we need to take serious action very quickly. But it seems to me then that if that's the case, then we should look at what the United States is already doing, where we're already building renewable energy, where we're already making progress on reducing emissions, where we can have the best bang for our buck, and then try and do as much in that sense as possible, rather than say, taking an all-new approach. Because as far as, and I'll have to look this up to double check, as far as I know, we are getting more production now for similar amounts of carbon emissions than we were in the past. The United States' carbon emissions have been relatively flat since 2005, and that's been with relatively little state action, primarily the replacement of coal with natural gas. The United States, though, during this time...
Is this true? Has this sustained?
Oh my god, there's no fucking way.
Let's see. I don't trust our world in let's see. Very nice. Look at how low our CO2 emissions are. Yep. It has leveled. This graph did stop at 2017. Wow, look at how low these emissions are. That's so awesome. Per person, CO2 emissions dropping. Meanwhile, China, GigaChad, industrializing. 2021. India, farting up a storm. So, I mean, in all honesty, it looks like at about 2008 is when the per person CO2 emissions actually happened. The real degrowth movement was the start of techno-feudalism. That's awesome.
Has done nothing, really, in terms of complying with international agreements. The Paris Accord that we pushed during the Obama years, that President Trump shredded. I think we've still made some progress. Well, I can't say that for sure, but the Kyoto Accords, we made progress on that, despite not really trying, because of just changes in from coal to natural gas alone. So.
Well, when we signed the Paris Accords, there was a provision in the agreement that said that it was basically the U.S. couldn't pull out until 2020. So it was a safeguard to make sure that the next president who came in didn't just rip that up. Like he tried to. He announced that we were going to leave the Paris Accords, but we were still locked in through the time that Biden was inaugurated.
Oh my God! Like you're locked in, but like locked into doing what? Like because like Bastiat's point is that political action in America against CO2 emissions is relatively small piece of the larger puzzle, which is the global human development. And
then he announced that we were going to stay in.
The kibosh on that?
Just a small aside.
Yeah, that's good. So it's I would say that
was
subsidize,
not part of the Paris Agreement,
raise taxes to pay for these
global
programs, increase subsidies, work with other countries to come up with binding targets. Binding is hard to do nationally.
The southern hemisphere to accelerate
we should look at. And I think that it's important to do all of this because we still, at the end of the day, live in a democracy, and what we do has to be able to get through the electoral process. Because if we, I'm not saying that this is what you're proposing or that this is what anyone on the left is proposing in particular, but if we just say, look, we've got to do whatever it takes, and we say the economic outcomes be damned, well, they'll be damned for a few years, but I don't know that it's hard to envision, at least in the near term, what could happen that would outweigh any kind of serious economic damage. If we're taking economic damage, we're not getting progress with multilateral agreements to control carbon. It's hard for me to imagine that we can sustain serious environmental programs. Like we're talking about here through multiple election cycles. That's what we got to do, right?
So just to clarify your overall
officially
position.
gone
You're,
last week.
Obviously a big free market guy.
Carbon credits.
When you can. I think you're pro union, right? You seem like a pretty pro union person.
Sort of like, I guess. Let me just say a bit about the regulation of the free market and all that. I acknowledge that not everything can be done in a way that leads to best outcomes through markets. And there's a real big free market guy, Friedrich Hayek, who said something to the effect of, he was from the Austrian School of Economics, he's super libertarian. He nevertheless said in a real good essay that, look, government, at the end of the day, is the most benevolent and magnificent institution of them all, because it's the one that makes all the others possible, right? Which is to say, even if you say free markets, you still need government to do some things. You still need government for courts, at least, for police, for military, at least. Those are the three things that almost everybody agrees on, almost everybody, right? So almost everybody acknowledges that you need a state for some big things. I and other people who are part of this neoliberal project group that I affiliate with say that we need the government to do more. For example, it seems like there are some industries that, because of their unique characteristics, it seems like if you want to get good outcomes, the government has to get seriously involved. One of those seems to be healthcare. There are 24
what a it seems to be healthcare. What a smooth transition to go from the absolute bare minimum requests inside the Overton window. And I mean, like, I would say, like, just mentioning the Austrian school to somebody like Hutch is, for Hutch, it's outside of the Overton window. For Warren, it's well within the Overton window. And bringing up, like, the absolute bare minimums to maintain, like, a quote-unquote society that is capable of procuring and raising a military, yeah, it is what Hayek describes. And Warren very keenly smuggles in,
countries
healthcare
that have
too.
very effective universal healthcare systems, and the United States is not one of those countries, really. I mean, our biggest problem is cost, but we also have middling outcomes for the amount of money we spend compared to countries like, say, Germany or Taiwan or the Netherlands, or on and on and on, right? So it seems like, right, if you're taking an empirical approach, that's the way to go. Look at how those countries are doing it. Markets are not the 100% solution there, but sometimes with other products, with most products, markets work a-okay. So it depends on what we're talking about and what the unique characteristics are, and then sometimes we can make a case and say, you know what, hey,
I'm very surprised he's not bringing up the concept of elasticity, right? Because the reason that he slid healthcare into his stack of what he recommends that the government regulate and secure is because health is an inelastic good. And most of the countries that have passed very successful healthcare programs, or I guess, they're still also swamped by the elderly living longer and longer, but places like the Netherlands, Norway, Switzerland, Taiwan, Japan, Canada, they're all relatively built on the same system, which is a list of procedures that are, by law, secured to be within and covered by a standard package. And then anything that is not on that list is up to the free market. And then there's a couple of, like, variations here and there. Like, the Dutch have, like, a... half the money comes from the company, half the money comes from the employee's wages. Very strange system. And then some of that money goes to a government institution, some of that goes to, like, the public insurance companies. Very, very odd system. The Dutch are so successfully schizophrenic, it's impressive, right? The saying goes that the Dutch did everything that the British were successful at, and first they did it, and but for whatever reason, like, they just don't have the evil in them to really follow through. They, like, very quickly abstract away that their gripes and their, like, ethical concerns regarding how capitalistically effective they are.
The government needs to have a more active role here. So
okay,
the Dutch.
Well, I mean,
proper schizophrenics.
I'm just naturally, when I came of age,
best
I really
evidence that actually capitalism is schizophrenic.
There's this movie called The Corporation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's like a 3-hour documentary where they talk about, was it the 13th Amendment that corporations were using to establish legal personhood? I really binged a lot of Chomsky and Zinn, and there's this movie called The Corporation. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's like a 3-hour documentary where they talk about, was it the 13th Amendment that corporations were using to establish legal personhood? And they talked about how, okay, well, if a corporation is a person, what kind of person would they be? And so they go through the DSM and they diagnose corporations as a psychopath.
Oh my God.
And they go through each characteristic. And
all fucking corporations are run by psychopaths. That's how it fucking
fit
works.
every single one of them. Yeah. And so I mean, like that was just my exposure to those kinds of ideas and that kind of literature and that kind of media back then.
We can talk about corporate personhood. I know I didn't answer your question about unions either, so I'm happy to
I'm curious in this conversation.
Well, yeah, I suppose get into it. I want to get into the mind of a neoliberal and see where I line up here.
So first of all, as far as unions go,
neoliberal.
I'm not like a pro or anti, really. I acknowledge that they have as much right to exist as corporations themselves, in the sense that they are voluntary organizations that people get together and form to bargain for better wages and conditions and things like that, right? Mm-hmm. So, for example, I'm not a labor law expert, so I can't speak to the particulars of, say, the federal law informing union and all that. But when you think about something like a right to work law, and California doesn't have these. I'm pretty sure California doesn't have these.
No, they do.
Really? A right to work law? Holy moly!
Okay, so the right to work law, is that the one where okay, so I remember I got a job working at a restaurant, and I had to sign a waiver saying they could fire me for any reason whatsoever, and it's okay because I signed this waiver. I don't know if that is what the right to work law is.
I don't think so.
Okay, I might be mixing it up with something else.
So that just sounds like
that is not what the right to. That is not what right to work is. Right to work means that unions, you can use police to, like, not break strikes, but to move them to the side so that people who do want to work during a strike can work and can be trained.
Actually, I didn't think they had that. I thought California was one of the exceptions to that too. I guess not.
This was over 10 years ago. It might have changed, but yeah.
I don't know. But several states, about 20, somewhere between 20 and 30, have what are called right-to-work laws, and what that means is that say you're negotiating, and I know sometimes it's not really much of a negotiation, but when you're taking a job with the company says, okay, we're going to pay you, and we're going to pay you this much to show up for this many hours, whatever. And you are then told by the company, also, you have to, as a condition of your employment, be a part of this union that has come to an agreement with us that everybody who works for our company is going to be part of the union, right? In a state without a right-to-work law, that is a possibility because the company can have come to an arrangement with the union ahead of time, right, through negotiation, and the employee is told, look, join union or you work somewhere else, right? So that's that when, and it's typically conservatives who push right-to-work laws, when they say, quote, right to work, what they mean is they want to ban that kind of agreement between unions and companies. And while in a sense that makes the employee somewhat freer in a sense, it really is to me a violation of the basic right to contract of the union.
It is a violation of the basic contract, that it's a violation of the human respect that should come from training, respecting, and entrusting somebody with the physical imminent manifestations of the processes of your business. You need the trust 100%. And these right-to-work laws, on face value, there's always going to be a gift that is associated with labor, and if the gift that just isn't working out, you just don't need to hear about it. You can just give other people the gift. I think that's being really disingenuous, and that's part of one of the greatest evils of capitalism, and something that Marxism actually does sort of skim over. Guys, I'm not going to ask any of you to like the stream because this is sort of
union and the company. The union and the company want to come to terms and say, look, you want to work at a company, you got to be part of this union. That's up to them. And we know that right-to-work states have reduced wages, reduced outcomes, and it's not exactly earth-shaking in terms of differences, I think, but it's still it's a serious difference. So that's the kind of anti-union law that I would like to get rid of. It seems like it just violates people's freedom of contract, and in exchange, it puts a thumb of government on the side of business. And that's not, business already has plenty of bargaining power. It doesn't need the government to come in, on its side in that fashion. So I'm not pro-union in the sense that I think the unions need a lot of favorable rules, but certainly we should take all the anti-union rules and get rid of those. So would you think
everybody would belong to a union?
Just get rid of, abolish all the anti,
or something like that.
Hutch used to have, yeah.
If you're working for a big company, small company.
I'm going to be honest, Hutch's cadence has definitely improved. It's far better white noise than it was 4 years ago.
Like that definitely have better
he comes off as an annoying San Francisco liberal. He actually looks like a dysgenic, what's it called? Fucking soy boy. Just like a dysgenic soy boy. He needs that fucking clamp to open up his bottles of Soylent. That's how he looks. He does look like a new male. With an NU.
There's a social utility there, a very obvious social utility. I mean, it's in the better interest of the people of the country that people can better support themselves and have access to healthcare, that kind of thing. So I guess I'm wondering in what circumstances would you oppose unions? I mean, we talk about police unions. Sometimes they can be destructive or whatever.
He's Hutch is actually begging him to be anti-unions. Please be liberal, be anti-unions.
And I think public sector unions generally because the relationship between government and the taxpayer is sort of different, I think, between, say, government or between a private company and its customers. There's not really an alternative to the government and to the police. And so the idea of, say, the police going out on strike, that's a very strange thing to imagine. It's not like you can just stop paying your taxes because the police have stopped policing.
Talking about the division
so it's very
between
strange, and there are different considerations
with
public sectors,
unions,
and it seems like that's a much more case-by-case question. I would be very much against police unions because of the inherent power that the police already have. But the bigger question, I think, is private sector.
Police unions should have a bicameral leadership. One of them democratically elected by the people that they represent. And the laws they represent, presumably. From the local community, the precinct. And then one chosen by the union.
And I would say
and that should be the actual
people want to form a union, they should be free to. And if they don't, for whatever reason, maybe they don't like the dues, maybe they don't want an organization that will,
Spartan
they're happy with their workplace as it is, then that should be
actually, that would be such a great campaign phrase. Make our cops Spartans again. Wow. Make our cops Spartans. Make them have a duopoly of the biggest, fattest fucking thumb guys you've ever seen in your life. Okay, one of them is gonna be the nerd that the people pick, or the really nice social worker lady, and then the other one is gonna be the thumb. Obviously, the unions are gonna elect the thumb.
the idea of sectoral unions, which seems to be the more successful way to unionize anyway. I don't know much about sectoral unions, but it seems like countries that have very successful forms of unionization do that, and that is to say unionization by employment sector. I couldn't speak much to this, but that's how they do it in like France and Germany, and I think in Sweden, and all these countries that have high rates of unionization and get a lot out of their unions, as opposed to what we do in the United States, where we unionize on a, I think what's called a plant or shop basis, like one union for one shop.
Wait, is he endorsing
that's how they do it in like France and Germany, and
industry?
They unionize anyway, for whatever reason. Maybe they don't like the dues, maybe they don't want an organization that will, maybe they're happy with their workplace as it is, and that should be up to them. The other question, though, as far as unions go, is the idea of sectoral unions, which seems to be the more successful way to unionize.
Oh,
anyway.
sectoral
I don't know much about
unions,
sectoral unions, but it
beloved.
seems like countries that have very successful forms of unionization do that, and that is to say unionization by employment sector. I couldn't speak much to this, but that's how they do it in like France and Germany, and I think in Sweden, and all these countries that have high rates of unionization and get a lot out of their unions, as opposed to what we do in the United States, where we unionize on a, I think what's called a plant or shop basis, like one union for one shop, and that seems to have less outcomes. So in the sense of saying, would I force everybody to join a union? No, but I think that I don't think that's the. I think it's appropriate to do something like that with a seriously compelling justification. If that's the kind of thing you want to do for the sake of wages and healthcare, then why wouldn't you just have, say, universal healthcare or higher?
High violence smoker, hello.
That's your goal, rather than just forcing everybody to join a union. But if you want to have, I think it should at least be
the first neoliberal to be like, yeah, those French guys are doing like pretty well with their unions.
For them, like southern states and western states, they are legally disadvantaged in very serious ways. So
you mentioned people having the freedom to not join a union because they don't want to pay dues or whatever. I guess that's kind of an odd way to phrase it for me, because you have the freedom to make less money and have less benefits because you were convinced by propaganda put out by the corporation that you work for. I mean, I look at the union battle in Alabama. I think the anti-union vote was like 2 to 1, right? I mean, it was a pretty clear majority. So I guess when I think of like big corporations, big companies, the reason why I think of exploitation is because I think of these kinds of examples. You had really
I'm just like a guy who's really got his mind set on exploitation. I'm just a quirked up white boy that's really thinking about exploitation, and it's gotten me, these Floridians trying to form a union and voting against it because there's propaganda. And I read Noam Chomsky, and it's like
started anti-union effort in this area to make on the part of the company to make sure that they could ultimately not have to negotiate as much with their employees. And so I see the profit motive as being it can be beneficial in some respects. We already talked about innovation in some sectors, but I see it as largely destructive. And so my position of being someone that like identifies like a SOCDEM is I view the government as an important.
No fucking way. He actually identified as a SOCDEM 5 years ago. Fucking 2021. This is like into Biden's term. Oh my god.
A necessary counterbalance to these very powerful forces, very powerful international companies.
But if that's the case, then then why? Like, it sounds like you would propose then that every business is somebody, like some kind of government like mandate for unions, that somebody has to form a union, right? Somebody, like, if you're running a company of a certain size, you have to have a union of some kind. And if people aren't organically forming them, perhaps the company has to provide them one or something, like somehow, right? And it just seems like you're willing.
Okay, but the question that they're not responding to, the implicit question, is should it be legal for unions to discriminate against members based on identity? Can my lesbian barista union maintain its purity and its dedication to the craft of lattes if the state is forcing them to have a couple of like sausage heads fucking in their union as well? They're not going to talk about it. This is not
to deploy that much state power. Like, why wouldn't you just then look at whatever the whatever the benefits are and just have the government, again, assuming we have the ability to do either.
It's not just benefits though. It's like the amount of hours that you work, what kind of overtime pay you get. So the benefit, if we could get government subsidized healthcare, that obviously would mitigate that problem entirely, and so we wouldn't even have to have that discussion. But as far as like future wage hikes go and vacation pay, I mean, there's all kinds of issues that I would be okay with some kind of state enforced union mandate, just because my interest is to see the people's quality of life.
State enforced union mandate, federally enforced. Wow,
quality of life
what the fuck?
Greatly increased in this country, because where it's at right now, I mean, I am afraid of some kind of violent revolution in the future if we allow the problem of income inequality and flattened wages to continue for another decade or two. I mean,
wait, Hutch was actually like based back then.
We're setting ourselves up for if we thought that we experienced social unrest, at like turn of the century with like labor struggles, and then also just in the last decade, how disruptive that's been. I'm afraid of what could happen a decade or two from now. Some demagogue takes power, and we saw like a hint of that with Trump, where he tried to tap into that populism a little bit, and he was quite effective at it.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. Like, well, I agree in not in your solution, but I agree with the idea of this is a thing to be aware of, this rise of kind of populist sentiment. And of course, somebody I did this meme a few months ago where I pretended to, scalp some PS5s or whatever, and, people are just like, I'm gonna cut your fucking head off, Bastiat. This guy got banned from Twitter now twice for it. So it's, there's a lot of, certainly, I'm no stranger to people talking about shot my head off, but I guess I would say this.
Scalpers get the wall.
Scalpers get the wall, right? Screw that. It's a fucking toy, right? And it's a fun toy, but you know what? I didn't actually scalp these 13 PS5s. I just posted a picture of it from Reddit, and I thought it was funny. But once people really started going off about it, I was like, well, hell, I can't just say I was kidding. Then I got to double down. But to talk really about like the issue,
isn't this though the perfect example of like the coconut on the island situation?
No,
isn't that like the perfect real world scenario?
No,
if you have a limited resource like a PS5, and then you have people with the means to thousands of dollars that they can then use to spend money.
He's going out to grab the fucking PS5s while everybody else is out grabbing the PS5s. This would be a Coconut Island scenario if he was the one distributing the fucking PS5s. Yeah, Hutch was pro-socialist, democratic socialist populism back then. And he would accurately and intelligently actually cite, vaguely by the way, he didn't mention the Luddites, he didn't mention, the Black Panthers, none of that shit, right? We're gonna afford him a little bit of gloss. Can we at least, rub his little baldy head just a little bit? People saying, oh, dispels a hater, I'm complimenting him. He did a good job during this debate. I think he did a great job. And maybe this is did all these fucking streamers peak in 2021? Lonerbox peaked in 2021. All of these fucking orbiters peaked in 2021, and then they all fucking lost it. It was probably, let's be honest. What was it? What happened in 2022? Let's be honest. But, at this point, the Ukraine war had already started, right? Because that was, there's, two things that really, sent Hutch into his, current state. One was, Russia invading Ukraine, and Hassan being egregiously wrong. January 6th was only a couple of months after this conversation. Isn't that right? When was it? Was 2020 fucking, it was 2021. It was 2021, was it not? Holy fuck, it was. Yeah. Yeah. It was only a couple of months before this conversation. Fucking, he literally, oh my god, Donald Trump, literally tried to coup the country back then. And he's actually promoting populism, this fucking insane liberal. Holy fuck.
Massive profit and then exploit, working class people to get a couple $100.
Yeah, sure. And that's the thing. All right, let me tell you about some of my customers who didn't actually exist. But all right, let's talk about some of them. Right? Not everybody has the ability to sit there at 12:01 a.m. and repeatedly click on Walmart.com to get that one PS5. Right? But what about Hutch? What about the family man? All right? What about the family man who works long hours? All right? And he just wanted to get a PS5 for his daughter he loves so much. She wanted that PS5 and he was willing to pay me $700 for one that he couldn't have got for $500.
Yeah. At the low cost of a 50% markup.
Hey,
for what is your labor, sir? Your labor is clicking a couple buttons at the right time because you had enough money in your bank account.
But his labor is the attention to the logistics. And in a very real sense, giving attention to logistics is something that will give you knowledge about a system and give you an advantage socially. You can do this at your job by working through tasks of massive amounts of repetitive data that nobody else wants to go through. Very similar thing. So I don't understand. Hutch,
I'm connecting him with something he otherwise wouldn't be able to get. What's his alternative in this situation? Because keep in mind, the alternative you've described is he doesn't get a PS5 at all.
The alternative is that if you had less scalpers and you would have people like this customer of yours would have been able to purchase a PS5 to begin with.
I'm not a PS5 expert here, but I will say that as far as I know, it isn't these scalpers that made it so that there's just no supply of them. It's the fact that they have a very severe chip shortage, and for some reason, I guess we have real problems producing chips, and they're all made in Taiwan, and there's a very small...
He's blaming the fucking Taiwanese!
Sony doesn't price the consoles, I guess, on their own for a variety of reasons. It seems like consoles are kind of a loss leader. They want people to spend money on the games and the internet connectivity service.
They weren't blaming AI back then. Oh no, real ones are aware.
On the console, but it seems like Sony just doesn't have enough supply, right? And there's also, I suppose, the argument of, Sony maybe wants to cut down on warehousing, rather than have these just kind of, but I guess the bigger point is, though, that even in a situation like that, that's sort of ridiculous, you're still connecting people who want a product who otherwise couldn't get it with a product that you've got available for them. The company that produces the product is made whole, right? The people who want the product clearly want enough to pay for it, and it's a luxury good that, it's a luxury good.
Yeah.
What's the luxury good? Wait, in this circumstance, what's the luxury good? I fucking kind of lost track of the Oh, it's the consoles. Yeah, the consoles are a luxury good. I mean, They're bread and circus, which is like, I guess like video games are one of the more expensive means of bread and circus, right? Because there's a level of
I guess what I would say is with something like this, it's one thing to say, look, we need to have a society where we ensure that everybody has healthcare, and because that's not a luxury good, right? We need that. What's the price you would pay to not die, right? That's a very different question than what is the price you would pay to provide a PS5 to Bastiat's fake, theoretical daughter in this situation, right? And in healthcare, I can make a very clear argument and say, look, there are examples, all right, of where we have policies that work in other countries that work great, in Netherlands, where they don't even get rid of,
it's crazy. The neoliberal in 2021, yeah. There are successful models of healthcare that have been mean tested. Holy fuck.
Right? They just have very active government involvement to ensure universal, available service at affordable prices. And healthcare is unique good, and that's cool. But with some other things, like say the PlayStation, to say, well, the government should step in and ensure that you can't overcharge, you can't resell. Like what exactly is the social good achieved? What is the purpose, and what are some of the costs? So
maybe you could have some kind of regulation to put a cap on like how much you can resell these things for, but I don't know how effective that would be if people are just exchanging cash and then
how are you gonna fucking enforce that?
You just gotta ask for what purpose compared to some of the things the government really I think could and should do. Because I agree there are some things government should do and should be more actively involved in, but I don't think the government has a case to get involved in everything. So.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm speaking more from like an idealistic point of view. I can't see a practical government solution to this problem, so I don't spend a lot of time and energy on things that I don't see a practical.
I would challenge your idealism on that. I mean, I believe you were talking about the police earlier. Would you really want to put a person in another situation where they might face contact with the police because they resold a PS5? I mean, because ultimately, of course, all laws have to be enforced in some capacity by the government.
Well, I mean, I don't know how involved the law enforcement would be, like unless you had to do these sorts of transactions.
Your anti-accumulation policies, Hutch. To, make sure that you have Oh my God, he actually. He doesn't fucking. He doesn't understand. You got to enforce the law.
Was done properly, but I'm not.
He doesn't want to think about.
Would you be willing to have the police enforce these laws? With respect, at some point, if they don't, then they exist, but they're just not respected, which itself sort of undermines the respect for the law generally.
Well, I think in this scenario, I don't think it would be like the enforcement of it would come in the form of a police officer showing up at your house. It would be like other government agencies that are like watchdog groups or whatever. Yeah. But again, I don't want to go down too far down this rabbit hole because I'm not seriously suggesting that kind of law. I just don't. It's hard for me to see the usefulness in the same sort of the same way that you do when it comes to scalping. When you talk about these people as if they're providing this invaluable service,
that's not what it's about. Yeah, it's about trying to make money.
Yeah, I think of like the 20 people that were refreshing the Target page trying to get their PS5 and then they got fucked because somebody bought 20 and then sold it for 100% markup or whatever they're selling it for. Yeah. I'm sure there were people selling PS5s for $1,000, $2,000. I mean, I don't know, but it wouldn't surprise me. That's just how these console launches go. If you wanted to talk about the police situation, I'm curious to hear what your thoughts were. I mean,
should we abolish the
big
police?
Thing that I was getting into it with my chat about was the fact that I agree. I think most reasonable people in this country agrees that there are overarching problems with law enforcement that have gone on for decades that need to be reformed or remedied in some fashion. Where I diverge from some of the people in my chat is that I think that messaging is incredibly important.
I remember we were both in on an issue like this a few months ago with the Frederick Douglass tweet about somebody saying. Or sorry, I said something to the effect of Frederick Douglass was very, messaging matters. Here's an example of Frederick Douglass giving a speech where he says, "Hey guys, messaging matters."
Okay. Yes. Right. Yeah, I do remember that. Okay. Yeah.
Sorry,
so that's no. Go ahead. Jump in at any time. But that was the point that I was making is that there need to be clear goals and there need to be logical. There needs to be a logical strategy to accomplish those goals.
Yes.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I love your contributions to the stream. The least verbose contributions from Violent Smoker, the best. Always love it. Thank you.
And I think unfortunately right now, in periods of social unrest, and I'm not even like blaming people for being angry. Like the fact that people are angry in the streets, sometimes rioting, sometimes looting, sometimes committing acts of
violence. He's not even blaming people for being black-pilled in fucking 2021. Oh my God.
I think that while we should focus on those things and try to minimize those occurrences as much as we possibly can, it makes way more sense to focus on the problem that is incensing these mobs to begin with. And the way that you do that is through, like I said, clear goals. And the messaging side of that, I can't even stress how important messaging is. I mean, like it's the soul of politics.
I love messaging. I love messaging. I love messaging. I love messaging. Food shops, you want to make a team. Food shops, you're like a liberal. You're like a hard liberal. We need to make a team. Jeffrey Epstein, yeah, I'd vote for him over. Yeah, Democrat Jeffrey Epstein, Hassan, Republican with all the groypers. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein.
Things win and lose elections all the time. Or they're the death of legislation or they're the birth of legislation, depending on how you frame what your goal is. And unfortunately, right now, I think it's only like 15% of the country want to like abolish the police. And the highest they ever got was maybe like 30% at the height of the protests
30%
an overwhelming
of
majority of black people in
wants
this country
to
don't want to abolish the police. And yet there are so many people. There's so many people on social media that are really committed to that slogan. They don't care if you propose coming up with a different slogan that accomplishes the exact same thing. Their position is, I'm not going to change the slogan. I shouldn't have to. Fuck you, you fucking shitlib. And that's just kind of how some of these people operate. And I find that to be quite counterproductive.
Fucking 5 years later,
sure.
he's still listening.
Well, it depends on what your goal is. I mean, your goal is to do something.
His goal is to farm fucking content.
Is to sell Patreon subscriptions for the Amped Up podcast with Ryan Knight. Well, I mean, that's actually probably a pretty effective strategy. I don't recall what he had to say about the police in particular, but he's just an example.
How many patrons does he have? Is he
not too many. Not too many, really. Okay. He posted this recently. He's just the one who comes to mind because he had these very, something about, you can be a comrade for my Patreon, you can be a member of the Politburo or whatever. This is just very transparently performative nonsense. And it's he's also kind of famous for going from Elizabeth Warren to Lenin in the course of like less than a year. So it's
I find that guy to be quite insufferable.
But that being said, I shouldn't. Apologies to you, Ryan, if you're listening. I shouldn't be focusing so much on you. It's this is not just him, and he's certainly not the biggest one. But the issue generally of the police, I guess I would say, is this. It seems to me that in this country we have a situation where the police we don't have robust accountability mechanisms and for the police and for prosecutors, and yet we have very strong like protections for police and for prosecutors. And I mentioned prosecutors as well, of course, because the police bring them in and the prosecutors are the ones who put them in prison for very long periods of time, right? That prosecutors they sit in jail for a while, but unless they are given a very coercive plea bargain. And I know my use of the word coercive is a bit of a meme after the Bosch debate, but I don't think anybody would argue that, certainly not me, certainly nobody else, that when a prosecutor can, as they can do now, for example, say to you, hey, accept this plea bargain, say accept 3 years in prison, or I will go after your family as well, I will go after members of your family for charges as well, all right? If you decide to go to trial, to exercise your constitutional rights, I will pursue you very viciously. I will make an example of you, in fact. I was talking to a guy named Clark Neely on a stream a couple of weeks ago, and he's the vice president for criminal justice at the Cato Institute, and they're a libertarian group, so, make of it what you will, but libertarians are usually pretty good on criminal justice issues because they don't think drugs should be illegal and they don't really like the police. It depends on the ones you're talking to, of course, because there's like a Liberty Hangout with Caitlin Bennett, where that brand of liberty is, fascism.
Boo Boo Bennett.
But generally speaking, folks like the folks at
Cato, what the fuck? He's calling Boo Boo Bennett a fascist.
All these horror stories because he's.
I'm beginning to think that Bastiat is not.
And tell me about how prosecutors can engage in that kind of activity. How the 95% of cases are pled out. That is to say that they
or a
neoliberal
trial.
And when you're dealing with plea bargains, which judges are very quick to approve of, when you're dealing with plea bargains, you're dealing with a situation where people may agree to just about anything for the sake of avoiding a very serious possible sentence, for the sake of getting home to their families, whatever, right?
Wait a second though. How does this not apply to your conversation with Vosh about coercive wages?
Well, here's I think the difference, and this isn't, and I'm not, by the way, saying that there's I will acknowledge for the purpose of this discussion that there are differences between types of coercion, right? Okay, but there is no question that when the government says do X or I will use force, that's coercion by any metric. Any metric. It is not intrinsic.
No, it's X. It's accept this punishment, or, which is more efficient for the government because it's cheaper or whatever. Or we could do this the dirty way. Which is like,
it's not extrinsic. It is not really a question of exploitation. It is a question of force. Do what I say, or I will use the police to lock you in a cell in a cage for years. Right. So that's clear coercion, as opposed to saying, for example, look, you have to take this job,
he
or I won't.
He lost his own example.
Right. That's not good. But that also is not locked in a cage by state force. So that's the point I was trying to bring out. There are differences in what you're getting at there. And if you view that as the same, then you're sort of I think depriving the term of much meaning, because we've got to recognize the different gradations in what is force, what is violence, right?
Well, I mean, sure, there's a spectrum, you could say, of coercion that we can talk about different examples of it. But if you're talking about state force as a destructive force, and you're saying this is bad because it's destructive, it does harm, then it's hard for me to understand how you can't see like loss of wages as a similar destructive force. Sure. Because that's almost.
How is loss of wages similar to the destructive force the state uses when you're asking for accountability for prosecutors and officers?
It's like a force. That's almost like a form of violence.
He can't track the
withholding somebody's wages unless they agree to substandard salary. What's that person? How are they going to feed themselves? I mean, like their body is going to have a violent reaction to starving.
Is withholding labor a form of violence then?
Can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah, that's such an interesting question. Is withholding labor a form of violence? And I think so. I think it absolutely is. Hashtag right to work.
labor resources, withholding something that someone needs.
Hashtag.
I mean, because it seems like by the standards you're setting, again, I would acknowledge that there are like I don't want to lose my wage. That's not a good thing. I get that. But the standard you're setting where that could be violence. I mean, is going on a strike, like for example, suppose you go on strike, right, and it doesn't work. The company folds, the boss leaves. I mean, did you commit violence against a fellow employee? I mean, like it seems like what you're doing is you're very, very it just seems like a definition that sort of limits the range of action you can take. Like if I cut you for the sake of saving the company, right? I mean, did I commit violence or did I respond to economic forces?
Well, let me just ask you. What's the usefulness of a company that pays substandard wages? How is that helping? How is that helping society?
Sure. I mean, it depends on what the alternative is. I mean, if they are able to pay substandard wages, what is the first of all, I guess there's one benefit to whoever's consuming the product and people will otherwise be. But beyond that, like, what is the alternative for the person here in the situation, right? If the alternative is that getting rid of this company leads to, I guess, another company hiring them for more money, then okay, sure. But if they're, why wouldn't then that person just, go work for that company then? Like, what is, when you say, like, what value are they providing? They're certainly providing some value. It just seems like rather than saying they're not providing value to society, we agree that...
Bastiat is just holding his hand into being able to schizophrenize and move in between definitions to contrast multiple things against each other in such a nice way. And I wish Hutch, with his few vapid but very meaningful to me points to history, would be great. It would be great.
We want to have some kind of policy situation where nobody in this country makes less than whatever wage. And it just seems like the question is like not.
We would live in abundance.
And the question is how we get there versus like.
And we would live in abundance.
A company that pays substandard wages
Gaza,
has no right to exist.
Fucking Project
but like,
Sunrise.
What good does it do to destroy that company for the person who works for it?
Well, I don't know if I would put it in those terms, in terms of like whether or not they have a right to exist. Certainly, they have a right to exist under our current.
Yeah, I don't mean to put.
He's a liberal. He's a liberal. Look at, he's a liberal. He doesn't understand. They have a right to exist, but I, as an FDR simp, would never try to intervene into the market and try and promote it. I'm talking about modern day Hutch, by the way. He doesn't have the fucking balls to do it.
That's just kind of one of the arguments I've heard.
That exists. I mean, and like certainly
his
supposed to be like cheaper
cortisol
commodities,
levels
like,
into being a
fucking
fucking
iPhones. It's like one of the reasons why these things is probably because these companies are paying substandard wages. But if you could snap your fingers and make it so that everybody in the world was making enough money to support themselves and potentially a small family or something like that, would you do that? I think probably you would. But like maybe where you and I disagree is like the methods by which to get there. And I think this is I really appreciated the fact that during the end of the debate with the debate you had with Vaj, you stressed the point that you guys are basically allies, and I think both of you acknowledged that, and I appreciated that a lot. But you talked about how you both have very similar goals. You just have very different visions for how to get there, and that seems to be the case.
I agree with that. Although I will say I left that debate thinking, where exactly is the socialism here? Because if socialism means we will do co-ops by force if we've done a study and several studies conclude that this would be a good thing to do. Okay, I mean that seems a little. I was a little curious about his politics at that point. But what I was trying to express there was like, look, if right now at this particular political moment, it's not there is relatively minimal risk of the workers rising up and seizing the means of production. However, there is a pretty well-demonstrated risk of right-wing authoritarians seizing government. Yeah. And so, that I think I was trying to kind of drive home that, on
despair, the knowers, the hindsight, the 2020. The hindsight is 2020. To hear him say this it's brutal, and it feels like these words, because he's no longer producing content, these words do mean something to him. But they just wash over his fucking bleached, clean fucking head.
The issues of the now, certainly, I think we agree more than we disagree. But in the long term, less so.
I don't see that the kind of revolution that the sort of like Twitter tankies are talking about. I don't see that as possible probably in my lifetime. And so it can be fun to have these sort of philosophical discussions about what's the best way to accomplish our goals or what our goals are, and et cetera, et cetera. But I try not to spend too much time like getting into the weeds about that stuff, because I'd rather focus on, well, what is the system that we're in right now, and like what is the best way to reform the system to improve the quality of life for as many people as humanly possible. So I'm really big into pragmatism at the age of 37. I think I might have been one of those obnoxious Twitter people at the age of 20.
Hutch's ideal career path: quickscope montage YouTuber to Twitter shitposter to fucking pragmatist, and a fucking soy cuck pragmatist. Okay, awesome.
I do think that's very possible, if not likely. And I think just seeing getting more experience with seeing how politics and commerce operate in this country over the last 2 decades, I've just come to recognize these things as things that exist and things that will continue to exist for years and decades to come. And so my focus is, well, how can we use the state to improve people's quality of life? And you kind of like, you seem to sort of cringe a little bit at the idea of like a threat of state violence or whatever, but I guess I just don't have the same take on that one. I'm not imagining like a group of like, socialist police officers like kicking down the doors of
He's so nice. He's so like affirming. He's smiling and nodding on. It's like, no, I do understand why you guys watch this guy. Like, the psychic war is immense, and he's just like patting fucking Hutch's like head.
With batons and like beating executives until they pay their workers
and
better.
Somehow fucking Hutch is not calling him out for pushing policies that are just outside of like neoliberal policy.
Necessarily needs to go down that
incredible
violent rabbit hole. I don't know where you're where are these concerns coming from? Do you have like historical references?
Well, I guess it depends on what you're talking about. Like if you're saying just raise the minimum wage by a few dollars, then that most companies will react simply by.
What about $15?
Yeah, I mean, from what I saw, the research on the $15 minimum wage was that it would depress future hiring in some capacity. It would have some effect on existing employment. And of course, it's marginal, but I mean, you did describe the loss of somebody's income as a form of violence. It's certainly not marginal for the people who face it, I mean, for what it's worth. And the only source I have on hand here is the CBO report that said it would pull, I think, 1.3, I shouldn't say this for sure. I don't know how many people would pull out of poverty. I want to say 1.3 million, and it would lead to 1.3 million fewer people working, but I may be misquoting that. What I do want to say, though, is that would result in businesses.
What is his point?
Some businesses would close, probably larger businesses would grow, and smaller businesses would wilt accordingly, but that is what it is.
There's just a lot of effects, and it's like, who knows what's going to exactly happen.
Probably just do that, and customers would pay a little bit more. There'd be fewer, some fewer jobs created, and that would be, that is sort of, I guess the quote unquote harm in that situation. I shouldn't say quote unquote. It is harm in a sense. Comes in the form of those future jobs that are not created because, it's harder, it's more expensive to hire people. How do we see that? How can we ever count them? Right?
How many of those jobs would have gone to people that already had another minimum wage job? I mean, that's another interesting data point that probably would need a little bit more clarity on.
We don't know.
I assume that many. Yeah. I know, like I worked minimum wage jobs when I was a lot younger, and the people that I worked with probably, like, this is just a guess, but probably like 50 to 75% of people that worked at this Burger King that I worked at also had another job elsewhere. Yeah. So if we lose 1 million jobs or whatever the CBO projected, obviously I wouldn't be happy unless the people that actually lost jobs, I wouldn't be like super thrilled unless we had a strong welfare state, strong enough to support these people while they were transitioning into a different kind of job. So it's not like I envision just raise the minimum wage and just let the market just do its thing. It would have to be accompanied by strong social safety nets as well.
Yeah, I guess.
Okay, wait. Hutch's prescription for improving people's quality of life is increasing federal minimum wage and a social safety net. Okay, that's it? I mean, doesn't quite address the questions that's being addressed here. Or that's under contention. How do you improve it? What's under contention is whether or not a minimum wage is sufficient to improve people's quality of life. Hutch brings up something, astute. It also depends on the number of hours that people work. Very keen. It depends on the commodities that people are buying. But because we're all retarded and delusional, we all have to go along with like this big charade.
This is the big difference for me with that approach, is that what I would want to do with these free markets is I would like to say, all right, we know they generate a lot of wealth and a lot of income and a lot of resources, and they are typically more effective, when it comes to things like production than, say, a very tightly regulated or very government-controlled industry. What I would like to do is, if we have a social objective we want to achieve, like say we want better healthcare or we want higher wages, then I would rather than just say, okay, we will wave the magic wand and every business must pay $15 an hour. We would tax and then we would redistribute. So we would, rather than try and force the creation of unions that would lead to better health negotiations, we would just waive we would tax and redistribute on health. We would tax and redistribute on wage supplements or subsidies or whatever, instead of trying to force a business to do X, Y, or Z, because there are a couple of issues with that generally that I can see. If there's a health and safety regulation, that's something different. But if we're trying to achieve economic outcomes, it seems like redistribution of taxed revenue is the better way to go to ensure that we don't result in unintended outcomes like job losses, like say, a policy like $50 would hurt jobs in Mississippi a lot more than would hurt jobs in like New York. Instead of those outcomes, why wouldn't we just want to tax, especially the rich, and redistribute to whatever our
neoliberal, by the way,
policies like
quote
that,
unquote,
policies like that work.
So I assume you're a fan of Biden's child allowance, the child tax credit, the expansion of that?
Yeah, right now I think that very I'm not up to snuff on all of Biden's ideas, and I suppose my ideal welfare would be the provision of a few services like healthcare through government, and then some kind of massive cash transfer, monthly or whatever.
In fucking 2021, they're talking about UBI, and these fucking insane assholes have sort of just like given up. Like, they're just caught up in the fucking laundry machine of fucking slop.
Prefer to give people the freedom to take those resources and use them as they fit. Some people would make bad decisions, but some people make very good decisions. But
that's Biden's plan.
Rather coherent.
His is a good example of moving in that direction.
Sure, C-tier commentator.
I don't know about the particular numbers compared to, say, Mitt Romney and Michael Bennett
He's
had
our boy.
Some other proposal. Sort of like
he was our boy.
It was similar-ish. I think Biden's goes a little bit further, but it was similar. It was surprising to see coming from someone like Romney.
Yeah. So it's been that was also surprising. Although Mitt Romney, who knows what's going through his mind after his colleagues basically had him chased out of the Capitol.
Right. So yeah, seeing him march with a Black Lives Matter mask was
that was a trip.
What fucking timeline am I on right now? Yeah, no, I'm not opposed to like.
Violent Smoker says they handed their brains to destiny.
I think actually it's a very coincidental phrase with my understanding of the entire ideological project, which is, I mean, not just as destiny, but like liberals generally, especially liberals who do not go out to protest. They are all like UX. They're all, unexceptional. What is it? Non-specific accelerationists, like uncompromising accelerationists. I don't remember what the U sounds like, but that's what they are. They have given their minds to destiny. They have sort of invested in radical guardrails holding and in the liberal telos of AI.
Like if we could do that, right? Like focus on taxation and redistribution that way rather than put pressure on companies to.
I mean, you say that.
As long as you showed me data that showed, like, okay, well, doing this policy lifted, this many people out of poverty, or made sure that nobody lived in poverty or something. Ideally, that'd be great. Then I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, like, I'm into whatever works. Yeah. So if your approach works, then sure, I'm not closed off to that at all.
Well, I think it's important just at least to think about because I get what you're saying. Like, we want better outcomes for workers, and I agree with that. And I think there's a pretty self-interested case for that to be made because, as you explained earlier, there are a lot of people who are frustrated, rightly or wrongly, with the current, I guess the way things are at the moment in the United States. Mm-hmm. I don't think all of that is reasonable. I think there are a lot of people who believe things like, say, immigrants are taking their jobs, or that the country as a whole has become poor from trade. I don't think either of those are usually true, but either way, people are feeling, there's this populist moment, and some of it has subsided without Trump, but of course, we've had populist moments in the past too, and they always seem to lead to very, very dangerous outcomes. So yeah, I think that the government should take actions to address.
This feels like a honeymoon, like the guardrails held after January 6th, like, we're cool, everything's chill, we can just grill and do our thing. The law is gonna take its course, and we're gonna find out if Donald Trump is guilty or not. It's not gonna take fucking forever. All right,
address, basically improve.
I can only get
I think it's important to do, even from a self-interest perspective. Even if you don't really care, even if you just want the best outcome for yourself, I think you should be pulling for things like child tax credits and some of the other COVID relief, the infrastructure bill. I mean, I don't know everything that's in the infrastructure bill. I know there's some questions about whether it's infrastructure or not, but ultimately it seems like Biden's been doing a lot of things.
It's pretty girthy proposition. Yeah. Let's see. Can they do reconciliation again at the end of the year? Or do they have to wait until 2021?
Gosh, I don't know.
Sorry, 2022.
I don't know about the timeline. I know that it has to be something that's related to something related to the budget. But yeah, I don't know about the timeline. Up
to 10 years. I don't think it can. The effect of it can go beyond 10 years. I think is what I read about.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Reconciliation. So
I don't know. I'm sure they'll try, but it's I mean, it seems like right now we have hit a moment in history where inflation is pretty well under control. And while that is the case, if that changes, then what the government should be doing, I think, should change perhaps accordingly. But right now, it seems very difficult to push inflation up. And so if the government therefore wants to borrow more and spend more, now with very low interest rates, it seems like the time to do that. So.
I think there was some kind of report that came out today, some kind of government report that came out today about inflation that showed a pretty high rate of inflation. But what I was reading from, I read some article from an economist. They were talking about how it's expected after the year that we just had to see a short spike in inflation because we saw prices going down last year because of the economy kind of floundering a little bit. So that's just sort of an aside. Do you view people like is his name Ryan Knight, Proud Socialist?
Yeah. He's actually so liberal realist. Deflation is the economy not doing well. He's so bought into it. Despite being, revolutionary soy boy socialist.
Yeah, and he's just a Twitter meme. I don't mean to,
It's actually criminal. I do feel like I'm looking at an MK Ultra patient before and after they got treatment. Just brutal, actually. Fuck.
I mean, to single him out in particular. He's just the most recent one I kind of squabbled with.
well, I consider him a problem, but like, do you consider people like him, or do you consider people like Hassan, or do you consider people like Bernie Sanders, Breonna Joy Gray? Do you consider them to be allies?
I guess it depends on the issue, right? Like in the sense of, opposed to Trump and, Josh Hawley, maybe, if he makes a run at the White House, opposed to the MAGA movement, then sure, yeah. Beyond that, though, I mean, 3 of those people are entertainers, and then there's Bernie Sanders. And there's nothing wrong being an entertainer. That's it's a good thing, too. But it's not, that's, it's not like, I think their interests and incentives are different. I mean, I don't think, it's like when somebody, I think that's a little different than, say, a politician to think about their incentives, what it is their goals are, what it is they're doing. And I'm not saying that's even as a bad thing, right? Like, they don't have the same pressures to compromise, for example, that a senator does.
You exist in the same arena. You exist in the same arena as entertainers.
Yeah, I'm an entertainer, too.
You're trying to spread your message. So,
yeah,
I mean, I do consider these people allies. I think it's important to call them out. And
incredible. No comment.
Push back. If you're going to be a force on the left, it is a much bigger tent on the left than it is on the right these days. But as long as people like the people you mentioned, Josh Hawley, Tom Cotton, fucking Gates, although I don't know how much of a political future he has after this, but then again, he's a Republican. They don't really experience consequences, so who knows where that one's going. As long as we have this...
I mean, he did experience consequences. He was going to be the general AG, and then everybody, before the Epstein files were released, everybody knew he was a pedophile, and he was pushed out because he was a pedophile. So instead, we got fucking the insane alcoholic freak.
Sort of like creeping fascism over here.
Who thankfully can press 300 pounds. Meanwhile, Hutch accurately complaining about fascism on the brink.
So who knows where that one's going? As long as we have this sort of like creeping fascism over here, that is a legitimate threat. When you have people like Tom Cotton writing an op-ed for whatever it was, Washington. I'm sorry, the Wall
Street. You think it's this genuine threat in 2021? Now he doesn't. This is so sad. This is brutal. This is actually brutal for me to listen to because this part I have not seen.
Free Journal saying we need to send in the tanks and send in the guns and start shooting people basically. Right. Then I think at the end of the day, even after you criticize people that maybe aligned with you on many issues, but maybe you feel like their messaging isn't that great, it is important to recognize that in the face of this over here, there needs to be some kind of solidarity over here. Just
for sure. Yeah, I'll gladly work with the Soviet army to defeat the Nazis. I'm gladly not to say that. I'm just being a little facetious. No, I agree. It's important to beyond that to recognize that on a lot of issues like on a lot of issues like criminal justice, right? I don't agree with the idea of defund the police. But, I mean, if you're out there raising awareness of the problems with the criminal justice system, well, that does some good. I mean, I hope that it doesn't, I guess this gets back to the messaging point. I hope that the messaging of, like, defund the police doesn't do more harm to the cause of police reform than, say, the benefit that is done by talking about these problems. I kind of doubt that the messaging does more harm, but I really don't know. Maybe you're more aware of that than I am, but...
I'd have to find the article, but I think at this point we do have data that shows that we lost more than a few House seats in 2020 because Republicans really hammered the Democratic candidate or incumbent about defund the police, and the right-wingers in this country did a really good job of marrying the Democratic Party to that movement, even though the leaders of the Democratic Party were doing everything they could to put distance between themselves and that movement. It didn't work, and the Republican messaging was really effective. And so, unfortunately, I think it did do some harm. At the same time, I get why people are angry. Like I was telling the chat before you got here, I chanted those words in the street, and it felt empowering.
This is immigration, right?
But that's me marching down like Hollywood Avenue. That's different from me. Being like an actual political force. So I don't know how much damage I did electorally by chanting that like down the street.
Sure.
But however, if you're a major organization and you're really like committed to that slogan, like you said, you didn't support defunding the police, but do you support redirecting funds to social workers to handle certain calls rather than militarized police state showing up at your door?
Yeah, as long as people can show that would be a good thing. Yeah, down for that. I'm not like, I don't know. It seems like perhaps one of the things that seems difficult with police departments is it seems like low pay in some police departments has resulted in unions instead being able to provide other benefits like higher job security. So perhaps it would be easier to have better trained police. Perhaps it would be easier to have
perhaps it would be better.
Police. It'd be easier to hire good cops.
Perhaps it would be better if we had them actually do like a 4-year degree. Perhaps it'd be better if cops did at least 2 years of fucking degree.
Cut on some of that incredible job security. That means that when somebody, for example, does something that is horrific, that is caught on camera, well, it's very hard to get rid of them. So maybe that's
going to be a tough sell. It's going to be a tough sell in this climate to give police officers raises.
I'm not, but that also depends, right? Like other, because like the police aren't a national institution, right? They're different in different localities. And it's, I guess what I'm saying is I'm certainly open to the idea.
I mean, the police there is a national institution. It's called ICE.
I wouldn't say like categorically, I'm prepared to say the police should have like less money as an institution. I think that it would certainly be nice because one thing I learned over this past year that I didn't know was that the police in some cities consume like 40-50% of the budget. And that's that is a pretty massive municipal expenditure. You know, if you want to do other things like, I don't know, you want to build some public housing or whatever, you know, at the local level, you know, if you could cut some of that police budget a little bit without some kind of negative consequence, or without too negative consequence, I guess.
Or here's the real marketable fucking scheme. You cut the police budget to build the projects and house all the criminals to then collect rents from, to then pay for additions to the police in order to police the people who you just built a house for who you just built projects for. Fuck, that's a marketable idea.
You want to do that, but...
Okay, so I had somebody in my chat
but, like,
named Tampac.
America's sadly like too fucking racist and too anti-commie that like can't even fucking do that properly. My fucking God.
Old school mod regular. He asked, can you ask him to expand on his position of open borders?
Yeah, sure. I do want to do the corporate personhood thing at some point. I forgot about that. You asked all these really good questions. I was really interested in stuff.
That one.
I've got ADD, so I'm in all these different directions.
I would actually. Okay. I'm thinking.
So as far as open borders goes, all of the research that I've ever seen says that immigration to the United States of America, I can only speak for the United States, immigration to the United States of America benefits, on the whole, everybody in the country, with the exception, occasionally, the exception of people who have no high school diploma. Otherwise, the economic benefits of immigration with respect to more economic activity, economic growth, and this is including the costs of things like services that are provided, government services that are provided, and yet, to people who are not paying income taxes because they're illegal immigrants, right? Even counting that loss, even counting the losses that come with illegal immigration, people being paid under the table and not taxed, still provides net benefit, right? And of course, there's all the benefits that come.
There's more money moving through the system. There's more G's handling all your D's and P's. Yeah. Okay.
From immigration otherwise, people come here and start businesses, things like that. So there's lots of good things. All the problems seem to result from or at least almost all the problems seem to result from our refusal to let immigrants in legally. And so we get things like, say, an immigrant comes here and works for a...
Our immigration problems seem to come from the inability to keep our residents happy and enfranchised.
Substandard wage in miserable conditions, and what can they do? Even though this is illegal, they can't do anything because they've already broken the law when they come here, and so when they call the police, they're at very real risk of being deported. So they can't complain about a minimum wage violation or health and safety violation or whatever, right? So it seems to me that given the economic benefits of immigration, we really don't have, and the fact that we could use a piece of those economic benefits to compensate those people who lose out, who may lose their jobs as a result of immigration, to help those people without high school diplomas to get high school diplomas, to get more education, we can help those people with some of those economic gains. So why don't we just do that? Why don't we just let people into the United States to live and work here in the way that we did, say, right up to until the 1880s, we had relatively few laws on immigration. The first big set of laws we had on immigration were the Chinese Exclusion Acts of the 1880s. And then
look, I got mentioned in chat. Ankh-Ja-Mullist. Thank you for mentioning me. Shout out to Ankh-Ja-Mullist.
1920s, I think, we implemented some more draconian laws on Europeans, or not on Europeans, but on people around the world, all kinds of quotas and things like that.
I was just talking to Mike about this. I think there was a period post World War II where we really tightened the border with Mexico.
Yeah.
We used to have an agreement.
There was a period before World War II where we gave them baths. We gave them chemical baths
with Mexico, where they could do seasonal work. Like people could come up here, do work for a few months, come back. Then they tightened the borders and incentivized people to stay and plant their roots here because they didn't want to keep making that dangerous trek back and forth and then risk getting caught, deported, incarcerated, or whatever. And then, ironically, the tightening our border ended up leading us to a place where it increased illegal immigration. It didn't help the problem whatsoever.
Absolutely. So, I mean, it's like when you think about it, it's one of those, when I'm talking about unintended consequences, this is kind of one of the, this is a good example of that. And unintended consequences shouldn't be used to just defeat any idea, right? But I think they should at least be considered. So what you raise there is an idea that, totally makes sense. Like if you come here to make money and you want to take that money home to your family, right? But you now can't get back into the country as easily if you leave, then of course you're going to send it, wire the money or whatever and stay here and work because you want to help your family. And it's weird because it's who benefits from this, really? And we know that the economic consequences for the country are less economic activity. We know that people are still immigrating illegally because the economic situation is so good comparatively. So, I guess what immigration debates are frustrating about is once we talk about, say, those people without high school diplomas who lose out, that's the one group that the research seems to show, I can't say they all benefit, but once we...
I think it's a marginal difference in wages, right? We're talking about low-skilled people without college, with just a high school education, maybe no high school education. These people do see a slight depression of their wages as a result of illegal immigration, based on the studies that I've read. But we're not talking about slashing their wages by 50% or even
Yeah, okay, but for these people, Hutch, and I think any sort of Hutch, any sort of marginal decrease for these people who are just barely in the green when it comes to monthly expenses is going to be more significant than like your 50% cut, your hypothetical 50% cut. Oh, it could be worse. Shut the fuck up, you stupid bitch.
Well, I don't know for sure about the amount either. I seem to remember something similar, but a fellow Rage Poke in my chat is saying it's not marginal, so maybe it is more. But it's like it's an amount of money that if we're already into redistribution of wealth to some degree, we could probably deal with. And perhaps if we are interested in helping these this particular group of people, we want to help them get a high school degree rather than say, okay, we will help you by excluding these other people who would do productive labor. And I guess there are a couple other things to think about. Like morally, I don't know what the argument is for restricting immigration, particularly for people who don't say have a contagious disease or don't have some kind of record of violent crime. I don't know, like morally, how you can say, well, you see, we were born here and you were born there, and that means that I can use the police to keep you from coming here, even if you are coming here because somebody wants to give you a place to live, somebody wants to give you a job, and you have freely made this agreement, right? I nevertheless have some interest in stopping you. I don't know morally what that argument is, unless you subscribe to very strange sort of, cultural type arguments. Like I have a right to a culture that looks a certain way, not even racially. I don't even mean to go that simple, although of course I think
there is a sort of essentialism inside of it, of like what the he's implying that you're requiring some vision of essentialism for what the culture needs in order to be anti-immigration. But being anti-immigration, look, I'm anti-immigration, and I think it's entirely possible. I mean, we should have people coming into the country. I think it's inevitable. We should have new ideas coming into the country. We can't just have a stagnant sort of like cesspool moving around exclusively within our borders. We got to move it up. We got to shake it up a little bit, but broadly anti-immigration, in that there is an essential character of America that we should be protecting, that I think Bastiat is very conveniently being able to skip over because Hutch is a fucking retard. There are parts of America that we should proliferate, we should gatekeep. We should want people coming into America who are egalitarian minded, who are liberty minded, who are freedom minded, who are genuinely minded very similarly to Bastiat. So this isn't like a hate thing, but like being anti-immigration necessitates you being essentialist, I don't think is accurate at all, but works very well for our beloved boy.
That's a lot of it, right? Well, but even if you don't say that, right? I have a right to a country where everybody speaks the same language. I have a right
morally, though, being able to go anywhere also implies that you're worth the expenses to travel that far, right? That's sort of like, that's also the Trojan horse underneath like immigration. Like everybody deserves at least one conscious trip to anywhere in the world. So that's sort of like the moral prolemma of it, rather than, like the freedom argument is a far better like angle to take.
Country where everybody believes the same thing. Right? It seems like when people like on Fox News will say things like Laura Ingraham, for example, said or Tucker Carlson said this. They both said something effective. Americans
he's been leaning into the great replacement theory pretty heavy for the last week here.
Yep, and they say stuff like, Americans just have woken up and realized, where's our country gone? And it's like one, it hasn't gone anywhere. We know empirically speaking that after 3 generations, it's actually kind of wild. The English proficiency of immigrants is not only the English proficiency of immigrants is very high by the 2nd generation, but the Spanish proficiency of immigrants from Latin America is very low by the 3rd generation. So this idea that
how do you expect to spread freedom by refusing freedom? I mean, in regards to like my immigration take of like being harder on the border, freedom to enter the country, yes, but also freedom to gatekeep the values that are assimilatable. Right, there is a sort of a threshold. There is an acceptable window of politics coming into the country, and obviously, we don't want like a homogenous pot. We want new things coming in to mix it up and to compete in the market. We can spread freedom with the gifts, I guess. What's a better value than freedom? I mean, you can load so much behind freedom. It is very, very nice. And I guess like you can just call yourself a neoliberal if you talk about freedom enough, I guess. Like you can just advocate for the Nordic model. You can advocate for UBI. You can advocate he didn't really advocate for nationalizing the oil, but he was like, yeah, it could happen, but we might think about doing other things. He didn't really advocate for raising the minimum wage, but instead like analyzing value. Is there a better value than freedom? When it comes to like sneaking your way as a fucking shisty person, disingenuous, being further left to Hutch, but also maintaining the frame that you are farther right than him. Very impressive. And it's also part and parcel with Hutch's fucking retarded, and is actually like just mining him for like debate like phrases, I guess. Maybe I'm being disingenuous. Maybe he is genuinely curious. Maybe this was a time where he was actually still conscious.
People are not, that's just one metric that I've got on hand right now. The idea that immigrants do not adopt sort of American culture and characteristics, that's just not true. But beyond that, why?
How do we even define American culture and characteristics? This is a question that I've grappled with for decades. I can't figure it out.
Sure. I mean, that's a personal, I suppose, question. But if you imagine some of the things we in the United States typically, have in common, I think, like the English language, freedom, liberty is one. It's not. I wouldn't write it off.
By the way, I have thought about the American neo-libertarian philangist proglemma. I have considered making English the national language of the American neo-libertarian philangist party, but I think it is actually not only are people smarter and more dynamic thinkers when they are bilingual, trilingual, multilingual than monolingual, they're better citizens and stewards of our democracy, which is what all neo-libertarian phalangism is about. We denounce the fascists, we denounce the communists, we denounce the Nazis, we love democratic republics, and people who are trying to paint the neo-libertarian phalangists as authoritarian or fascist. These people are low IQ Hutch chatters.
I think that's pretty important. I think Americans do generally, even across their politics, have different feelings about things like, say, your right to self-defense. I mean, guns are pretty, that's a pretty unique sort of American thing, and it seems to be a very culturally driven issue. So things like that.
In some ways, that's like the most American. What am I thinking? What's the word I'm thinking of? That's like the best example of American culture, I think, in many ways, is guns, just because of how unique we are and how prevalent gun culture is.
We love guns.
But you were talking about you can't think of a moral argument. I think clearly there really isn't a moral argument. If we're talking about periods of history like post 9/11 where xenophobia really kind of exploded and this country sort of collectively lost its mind for an entire decade, then I think the reasons are pretty clear why people are wary of black and brown people crossing our borders and coming over. And this is just an unfortunate legacy of white supremacy that I think is persistent, and we're still grappling with that. And I think
it's unfortunate that we're still grappling. Is it you? I feel like you have not explained why these people after 9/11, you're saying it's not morally acceptable, but you can understand why they're taking these positions. They're taking these positions because it's white supremacy so Hutch.
It is getting better though, and the social unrest that we see is a symptom or is a byproduct of the fact that we are getting that it is improving.
Yeah. I mean, there's something
because these conversations are taking place in ways that we haven't seen since the civil rights struggle 60 years ago.
Better conversations are happening every day. I'm sure.
To be optimistic while also acknowledging that there are still a lot of people that are struggling under the system. There's a lot of work to be done. But I think a lot of people saw the Biden nominee and an eventual win. I think a lot of people on the left saw that as sort of a depressing sign. But I don't hold that view. I mean, I think I've grown more optimistic as I've gotten older, because it used to be so much worse. When I think of how open homophobia was just in the culture and how open transphobia was, if we're just going to focus on these two issues.
Yeah, he is really
I mean, we're talking night and day.
Attached to the
and the fact that so many people are arguing with each other and getting mad at each other, and how it's so polarizing these days. And, cancel culture run amok. This is a byproduct of a society evolving and advancing.
It's true.
I take comfort in that personally.
Yeah, and it's hard to not to leave the immigration issue, but to mention Joe Biden. It's hard to imagine exactly what a President Bernie Sanders, who has otherwise the same House and Senate, would do that was particularly different. I mean, if he can't, for example, get the votes on the minimum wage.
This is insane sweeping for Bernie Sanders.
I think you would hear from a lot of people, and this is what I hear, is they want a champion. They want somebody that's going to get up there, even if you lose legislatively, they want somebody to get up on that podium, to use that bully pulpit, to drive that point home and to stop. Even if you lose the fight, the rhetoric doesn't stop. You keep the fight going. But that's where I kind of diverge with a lot of people, because when the minimum wage fight was lost, when we didn't have the vote for Manchin and Sinema, when it was clear that we didn't have the votes, I just kind of I was a little upset, because I like the idea of doubling millions of people's wages in this country, even with the cost of the slight depression when it comes to new jobs and new hires and stuff like that. I saw that as a good trade-off. Maybe there are better ways to achieve income inequality, but this is certainly one of those ways, and it would have done, I think, a lot of good. And I was upset about that, but a lot of people really wanted Biden they wanted him to fucking go to West Virginia and just pressure the shit out of Manchin, even though that's a state that Trump won by 30 points, and they wanted Biden to go to Arizona.
West Virginia, also a state that voted for Bernie Sanders. They voted for Trump because the DNC used their superdelegates to disenfranchise West Virginia. That's fucking why, Hutch. Oh my fucking god. He spits facts, but the framework underneath the facts is half-assed. It's incredible.
I don't want to put a bunch of pressure on cinema and basically, ostracize them and make them pariahs in their own party when we have like just such a slim majority in the Senate. We don't even have technically a majority. Yeah. And so, I don't know what Bernie would have done differently by now. Like, I think Biden in the first 3 months of Biden's presidency so far, I don't know if it would have been like too much different from Bernie. And I think Bernie's laid a lot.
Insane sweeping. A
lot of praise on Biden these days too. For getting that COVID spending bill passed was huge. It's a big fucking deal.
It's wild, actually. President Bernie Sanders, I think we would all be seeing the knives out for him by now. I mean, the first drone strike from President Bernie Sanders, who said on the campaign trail, by the way, "Oh yeah, I would use drones. Yeah, I'd do that." It would just like this idea of a champion, though. I do get that to some degree, but I guess that was the idea for Trump, right? And what exactly, was Trump's, like, yeah, he was a champion for some ideas, and there are some ideas now that are more thoroughly a part of our politics than they were before, like, say, trade restrictions. That was not really a big thing before Trump made them a big thing. So there's something to that.
It was a big thing on the left. It was a big thing on the left. Like, a lot of people on the left opposed these programs like TPP and NAFTA.
Oh, well.
But in terms of, like, mainstream politics, there weren't a lot of, like, counterforces to these trade agreements.
So, yeah, that's a good way to put it. And so, like, there's certainly something to that, but, it's... I suppose comparing that to being able to get a 50 votes on a COVID relief bill of 1.6, 1.9 trillion. That's
1.9. Yeah.
I take the COVID bill.
Okay, so are they circling?
Not to mention the possibility
of they just like agree. Right, they like each other.
I'm pretty optimistic about 2022 and 2024 right now. If Biden continue, like if the next
brutal
year and a half are exactly the same as these first few months, I think we have a great chance to expand our majorities and to retain the presidency, and hopefully shift the conversation in this country towards being more open to a strong welfare state. Like, a lot of people in this country just don't like that word, welfare. Just after decades of propaganda like welfare nannies and that kind of shit, like going back
brutal.
To
like I
might actually
cry.
See these sorts of government handouts as a sign of personal failure, and I think like many would probably even reject that help even if they would qualify for it because of the stigma attached to it.
Yeah.
But hopefully, as there could be a silver lining coming out of this last year of COVID and sort of reimagining what the role of government is. If you would have told me that we would have passed the kind of thing, my idea of like government intervention in an economic downturn is like the lackluster packages we got during the Obama administration. So I couldn't. It was hard for me, and I got a little hopeless after a while because I really like strong social safety nets, and I think that's super important. But I see this moment that we're in right now. We have a unique opening to change the entire discussion about welfare programs in this country.
Yeah.
And hopefully we get to see that realized. I'm hoping that something disruptive doesn't come in and just completely take, like if there's another terrorist attack or something like that in this country, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, I think.
And he's saying another terrorist attack right after January 6th. Like, he's so fucking like hope-pilled after January 6th failing and guardrails holding. Brutal. Just prosecute, bro.
I do think the Republicans would rise to power once more because they're very good at playing on people's fear of the other. You're old enough to remember that. Post 9/11, it was just a nightmare being in this country and being like anti-war.
It was rough. Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the anti-war movement. I was in high school, but I was. I was
a pro-war guy.
Whenever they talk about
I was young.
Spare a thought for the Dixie Chicks. I don't remember them, but the original.
Oh, yeah.
The original, at least for our generation, I would say, victims of cancel culture.
Huge Dixie Chicks fan. I fucking love the Dixie Chicks. I should call them the Chicks now. I feel like that's kind of like dead naming, right? A little bit. I want to be respectful, but it feels more disrespectful to say the Chicks than the Dixie Chicks for some reason.
I forgot.
I have
like change, so yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, how did you know that you were interested in politics? Like, I feel like once you catch the bug of being interested in this shit, it's really hard to lose it. I feel like it's always going to be interesting on some level.
Yeah.
He's actually addicted. He's actually addicted to the drama slop. He's addicted to the cycle. He can't fucking get off. He's on the treadmill. And like, at a certain point, you give up on politics and you just go after Hassan. You give up on the personality. There's a substance. It's all gone. It all gets swept away. Wow. Like, he can't, modern day, I don't know if he can even say, like, that he is just a welfare guy, like a single issue welfare voter.
But it takes a little while to get there. You have to learn a lot of historical context before you can understand the events of today, and that takes time. You got to either go to university or spend a lot of time educating yourself.
You got to read a lot of Noam Chomsky.
Thank
you, Hutch.
No, you can spend your whole life like studying this stuff, and you'll never know like a fraction of a fraction of a percent of world history and politics. So it can be daunting. It can be quite daunting. So I'm just wondering, like, when did you know that you were into this kind of thing?
Gosh, that's I remember getting into it when I was in middle school. I remember writing a little paper about Russia and what was going on in Russia at the time. I just did it for fun. I don't remember exactly why. Oh, and I wanted to show people, because I wanted to show them how smart I was. Like that's very impressive to people. Of course, nobody's impressed. But I nevertheless was really into this kind of stuff like back then. And I guess I would say that one thing that I feel like one thing that has sort of come to my mind as I have learned more and kind of developed is that I don't know that feeling of being ignorant ever really disappears. In fact, it seems like I feel like it's more pronounced the more I know and the more that I do, because you sort of then understand sort of the scale of the you know, like you can only see the amount of regular matter in the universe, right? You can't see all the dark matter, you know, but you maybe know how much is out there. You can't directly see. You know that you know. I'm getting into Rumsfeld territory here with known
humility pilling.
You don't know. You know how much you don't know.
Hutch is a big guy.
Have you seen that film, by the way? Errol Morris did a sit-down interview with Rumsfeld called The Known Unknowns.
No, I haven't.
He's one of my favorite filmmakers. He does a lot of really great documentaries. Are you familiar with him? The Fog of War and The Thin Blue Line, and he did one recently with Steve Bannon, which is extremely interesting, called American Dharma. He just sat down with Steve Bannon, just had a conversation with him, and gives you like a really intimate view of the Trump campaign during 2006. He's a phenomenal filmmaker, by the way. He does not miss with his
and what's his name?
His documentaries. Errol Morris, ERROL Morris, just exactly how it's. But The Fog of War is another one. He sat down with Robert McNamara.
Wow.
I don't know if McNamara's still alive, but he sat down with him and had an in-depth conversation about his time at Ford. I think he was the CEO of Ford for a little bit, and then he went from the private sector to being asked to be the Secretary of Defense, and they talked about Vietnam. And it's just so good, so interesting.
What are the other topics?
Everybody should look him up as a filmmaker. He makes phenomenal documentaries.
Yeah, I gotta check that out because that's like you want to talk to somebody who
38.
About, like.
That's it.
Vietnam War is just like in terms of bad policy, bad government, like just a maelstrom, just like the most perfectly awful example of all the bad things government can do wrapped up in one miserable ball. So yeah, and McNamara was responsible for a lot of it.
My dad's a Vietnam vet, so we don't really talk about Vietnam. It's not something that like just imagine like.
Is this the cop dad as well? We don't talk about Vietnam. He did unspeakable things in Vietnam, and now he's a cop, and for a couple of years, I was a soy boy leftist, but now I'm I got a man. I'm a man. I've been divorced. I've got a new wife. I'm a proper centrist. Yeah, okay. All right, sure. All right, chat, we're wrapping it up. Pleasure having you guys with me. Unfortunately, the satanic deeds of the people who have gifted me both purpose, life, and material structure called interrupting what could have been perhaps the best stream of your life. And actually, I think will now be the best stream of your life because it's still going to happen. I've still got all the stuff prepared. It's still going to be salient next week or the week afterwards. Surprise, potentially coming. It's gonna hit. It's gonna be a banger. We've got Ted Kaczynski as a guest on the show. Isn't that something? Next fucking week, Ted Kaczynski, guest on the show, on the marketable show. You would say, oh, no, Ted Kaczynski isn't like a very marketable guest at all. No, I would say, if you are a liberal, if you are somebody who considers himself liberal, if you are somebody who considers himself dark liberal, blue MAGA, whatever the kids these days are saying, and you want to reach out to MAGA, you want to understand their mindset, you gotta read what's his face wrote about. You gotta read what Ted Kaczynski said, because while most right wingers have not actually read it. They've read the very first paragraph because they know it all, but like Ted Kaczynski and his writing is a very useful signifier to tap into when you're talking to people about the problems in society. If we're going to look, okay, chat, if we're going to be serious about this anti-left grift, if this anti-left, this American neo-libertarian phalangist anti-leftism, maybe we should just rip off of Ted Kaczynski. It'll be a good idea. Trust me. Alrighty, guys. I hope you guys have a good evening. I'll see y'all around. I needed to probably do this stream because I didn't stream last week. I didn't stream the week before that. So I was very disappointed we didn't get to the meat of what this show was supposed to be. But today was great. And next one will be even better because we've got social stream working. I might broadcast to Kick and TikTok, so we'll see. There might be a lot more schizophrenics to join us. I appreciate you guys joining me. I hope you all have a good weekend, good evening. See you later. I'm not going to do a raid. I don't care. I'm tired. I'm actually just like going to sleep. See you later, guys. Bye.